Want to start?
Yeah. So marketing for musicians. We figured that would be usually I sit in a lot of conferences as well, and it's usually the hottest topic because nobody has any idea what it actually means. So for today, we actually kind of based on a lot of the research I've been doing. So I do have a master's in business, MBA in entrepreneurial management as well. And so what I like to do is try to figure out the foundational understanding of things for people, and I find for musicians, it's just such a, like, being a business is such an icky feeling. But if you want to get your music played, and if you want to get paid for your music, you're a business. So marketing is a huge part of what you have to do. So anyway, today's presentation is, Laura's going to touch on kind of the overarching marketing stuff, and I'm going to dive a lot into branding, because branding is the foundation of marketing. And if you guys don't have brand, you can't market yourself. You can, but it's not going to work very well. Not very well. So yeah, take it away, very well.
You have anything you want to?
I guess so. Take it away, self.
Yes, QR codes. And I actually brought up.
Yeah. So if you got your phones handy, that would be great. Just to follow along with the worksheets, the QR codes. All right, so yeah, today we're talking about branding, so kind of the foundational information you need to know about branding, and then we will talk about your press kits or your EPKs, which, if any, like how many people in the room have released music before? Okay, so did you all make an EPK for that? Yes. Show of hands. So one person, okay. So your EPK is your electronic press kit, and that's going to accompany every single release. So we will get that. We'll get to that more, but sounds like only one person has done it. So we have
badly
lots. Well, we're going to get to it today, so you'll be prepared for next time. Yeah. So just agenda today, we'll go through our introductions for myself and Laura. She will talk about the 7 steps of marketing. And remember, this is just high level stuff for the marketing. It's just to give you a really broad idea of the whole picture of marketing. We'll go over brand storytelling, brand identity, visual branding. We'll get to your EPK and talk a little bit about what's next. And yeah, a little bit about me. I am an entrepreneur and a musician. I'm half of Indie Pop Duo Midnight Gossip. Couple highlights from my career so far. We just started the band in 2022. And I've been playing music for over 20 years, but Midnight Gossip just formed in 2022. We released our first single in December of 2022, released our second single in June of this year. We have been on CBC, CGSW, CKUA, Exposure on X929. We played a music festival this summer, Satellite Music and Art Festival, and then we just played at the Calgary Tattoo and Art Festival at the BMO Center, so that was pretty exciting, and that's all in less than a year, about like 8 months since starting the band. So we've accomplished quite a lot. I do have an MBA in entrepreneurial management. I graduated last year, all while I was on long-term disability. I don't know if many of you know this or if you follow me on my Indie MBA page, but I did suffer from really bad burnout in 2022. So I was actually on long-term disability for a long time. So a lot of what I do is trying to make things as easy as I can for myself, which in turn makes them easy for you guys to avoid burnout, to make it simple, to make it easy. I'm very mindful of the holistic side of being a musician because it is very stressful. It is being a business. I have my Indie MBA, my coaching business. I have Midnight Gossip, and I have a third business with my partner, very offside of music. It's like selling. We build Asado wood-fired grills. So kind of a large stretch of things that I do. I was also a part of CMI's AUS, which I know McLean is a part of, and I hope you're loving it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Very helpful.
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of what I know is from that program, obviously, and doing it myself. I also worked with a DJ, producer, singer last year. Her name is Ruby Chase. She's got like 150,000 monthly listeners. She's touring the world, headlining music festivals. She was a mentor of mine last year. Learned an incredible amount from her. Obviously, I'm more electronic music, dance music, not in the kind of folk country world. So having a mentor like that was hugely beneficial to me. And obviously, I'm part of the Write On Songs program for this year as well.
Cool. Yeah, not quite so much online.
I mean, you've been pretty busy.
So Mostly less schooling, more hard knocks. Business is my background. So, however, little fact, I started playing the piano when I was 3. So I went to did the whole Royal Conservatory thing and loved it. Creative, artistic family. And then the family business got in the way and sidetracked my life. And so since 18, I've been running family businesses, started my first business at 19. Did it, sold it, corporate sales, security, emergency management, blah, blah, blah. Went back to school for communications. And then actually, that's when I started to find my love again with communications and marketing. So then, so for the past 10 plus years, I've been a marketing and communications consultant, mostly working with entrepreneurs and helping them find their life. I mean, I had my dream job. I started a bike shop. So now biking was my world. So athletics kind of got in the way of my musician world. Anyway, so lots of fun. And now I get to help other entrepreneurs realize their dreams, and communications honestly is fundamental to the success of your organization. And it does, and it is true. If you don't have good communications, you will fail. And it's branding, everything. So I have a background in design, graphic design, comms, PR, sales, blah, blah, blah. So my world is about putting it all together simply so that you guys can find that communications that's right for you. Now I get a chance. My kids are all older. We're just talking about kids. So my daughter's 27, and I'm horrible with age.
It's like, don't look at me, I don't know how old you are.
I know, I was just like, think, Laura, how old are your kids? So now I get to go and play back in the music world. And so I'd love to be back here, so thank you. So my focus, where I'm gonna talk to you guys about, will be the business aspect of it. And I've been teaching entrepreneurs digital marketing and marketing for years, and have come down to 7 steps. And it is the same, whether you're a musician or you're government, which I worked there in a stint for a while, or a big corporation. These 7 steps are simple. They're just not easy. So we're going to jump into that. acornstudio.marketing is our website. So please do go in, look on about, find me, connect with me on LinkedIn, wherever. And if you ever do have a question, Laura at acornstudio.marketing is just email me. And if you need a 30-minute chat or whatever, as part of this program, I'm happy to help you guys.
Yeah, and she's got a ton of amazing resources for free on that website. So please go look at it.
And we do have an entrepreneur group. It's online, it's virtual. Nikki's been coming every Wednesday morning at 8 Mountain Time. We meet, and you guys are more than welcome to come. And it's a really supportive, cool group, mostly marketing, but really it's about entrepreneurship. We have everyone from business consultants to marketing people to therapists to you name it. So please do come. It's free. So there we go.
It's affordable.
It's very affordable.
Well, I won't ask money from you. I mean, there is money options, right? But to come on
As there always
Wednesday,
is.
it's free on Wednesday.
Yes. All right.
So this is where I'm gonna get started, and I'm gonna tell you all the boring stuff first. And you're gonna glaze over, as most of my students do. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna keep learning those 7 steps, and you're gonna come and listen to me talk, and I'll always revisit these. Because eventually, you're just gonna think about them. And I know, because I've been teaching 7 steps since 2018. So it's been a few years, and when my people come back and start telling me things, it's like, yes, it's working. So it does work. So first off, business plan. It's not that big, boring one. When I went to school and had to write a business plan, it was like in this binder, and it worked. And I kept it for 10 years, 20 years. I kept my mission statement very clear, and I did it. But this is not the world we live in. So I want for you guys just to take, these are kind of the essentials, and you guys will have this afterwards as well as I have a bunch of these extra resources. So really just know who you are as a business, what you want to accomplish, because this is a business, right? Like whether you as part of your goals, maybe it's just to hang out, maybe it's to have fun. Maybe it's to write, maybe it's to get on one of the radio stations, whatever that is, clearly define what you're selling and what you want to do as a business. So that business plan, know your mission, vision, values, they're all really big words, but really it's know who you are and what you want to accomplish. And those will not change. Some things like your business goals will change, but who you are as a person and where you see yourself, it may get derailed, but really That's not stuff that's gonna change over time. Value-added proposition is really, why are people gonna buy from you? Why are people gonna even show up? What's that value you give? What's that? Is it a feeling? Is it things like it's really tangible, it's good quality? And how are you gonna stay ahead of your competition? And so those business goals, put short and long-term goals. If anyone wants to do an entrepreneur vision exercise, I know I've been talking to Nancy and Pip about that. I do this whole entrepreneur vision thing. Just talk to me afterwards, but really know who you are as a person, where you want to accomplish, and then you get into your business side as well. Keep it separate. And I know it's hard as a musician because it's so you, but if you can kind of step aside and be objective and see it as external, and everyone that I talk to, it's too long, oh, my business plan is in my head. It is not the place for it, but it's a great place to start. So please write it down, draw pictures, maybe make a song about it. I don't know, whatever works for you. Create a business plan and put it down, because what that allows is it helps you formulate your ideas, and it helps you go, oh, that just doesn't make sense. And it also helps share with and get people to help you. So if someone comes to me and says, listen, Laura, help me with my marketing plan. Okay, so what's your business plan? Oh, it's in my head. I gotta send you back. So just make a very simple business plan. I have tons of templates too on stuff like that and how to make it simple. So that's it. As from a marketing standpoint, I also need how much you have to do for marketing. It's a budget, and budget is time, skills, and human resources, which is, well, time, skills, and money. I always forget money. It's funny how that is.
That's the most important.
But it's the most, well,
Well, it's not the
it's
most
either you
important.
have lots of time and skills,
Yeah.
or you have money, and usually it's a mix.
Yeah.
So just really think through your budget when you're doing that. And then we're gonna for sure get into the brand strategy guide and your brand promise and things like that. So that is the business plan. Spend probably too much time on that, but it's really important because you can't really go too much further without it. So let's grab into the target audiences, and target audiences is really, it's your key stakeholders, big words, blah, blah, but mostly it's who plays a role in the success of your business. So that could be your event coordinators, right? Your venue people, your media, your fans, your band members. It's internal, it's external, and you'll be communicating at different points. So part of your comms plan, MarComms and whatever, is knowing who you need to communicate with and with what message and at what time. So predominantly in our business world, it's our clients. Predominantly, it's going to be your major fan, but don't forget those secondary people. Maybe it's a secondary fan, or maybe it's your band members, right? Something like, you don't take all of those for granted. Media, right? Like that's going to be a point. So you're going to have your main communications, but at times you're going to have to communicate to different people. So keep a list of them, and then really get into it when you're especially when you start to get into a campaign. And I would say start with your fan, your greatest fans. Know demographically, where are they? But also, most importantly, get into their psychographic. Like get into what motivates them, what inspires them, because it's so easy, I know for you guys, to get into your music, but you forget what they want. And we're gonna get more into, because I'm coming from the perspective of your greatest fan. I love it. I am not a professional musician. I haven't played classical music other than dabbling around for many years, but I love it. And when COVID hit, and I was working for the city of Mississauga, in the Entrepreneur Center, what happened was, well, you guys all know, right? It shut down overnight. March 16th was when we were doing it. I was teaching digital marketing. We transferred all the way onto webinars. And at that point, I got to know Scott Duncan and the whole crowd over here. And it was really wonderful. And all my musicians were going, what do I do? What do I do? I'm not online. So I scrambled, I put together a webinar, and I sent it out there, and I talked to them about getting online, because you really have to. But the biggest thing was me presenting. Business is business, but I am your fan. If I can't find you, I can't help you. And if you can't tell me how to help you, like all of those things you forget, right? And if I can't hear your music, oh, it's not much good. So anyways, we did a whole thing. You guys have access to that. It's a little dated, but the concepts are there. But my point is, get into the headspace of your most important person, of who you're trying to communicate at that point. So spend the time, be intentional. Please be intentional. Don't just kind of talk periodically, but document stuff. Let's go to goals, because I don't want to spend too much time on the boring stuff. Goals, basically, what business goals are you supporting? What is success? How will you evaluate your success? Who's your audience? And what is the timing that needs to happen? Just write it down, make sure it's specific, it's measurable, it's achievable, relevant, and timely, the whole SMART thing. And always think through the whole funnel. I know we're getting into business thing, but general awareness, you gotta let people know you're out there, right? And then they gotta think you're cool and you're connected with them. And then you've gotta ask them for the sale, right? What do you want them to do? Buy your music? Or follow your track on Spotify? I'm learning the lingo. Anyway, so forgive me, right? Or subscribe to your email. Maybe you decided the VIP email list. So really think through what those goals are going to be. And then channels is how are you going to connect with them? And this is where your branding and marketing, we're not getting too much into that channel piece, are we? So the channels are basically, it's your avenues of getting your messaging out. So do you have a website? Do you have social media? Are you going to do an email list? Is it a podcast that you're doing? Whatever those channels are. And so people go, there's so many, right? Like, how do you know what's right for your business? Well, there's a critical checklist, and it will take you through when people ask me, well, what's right? Should I be on Facebook? I put them back to this. You guys will have this. Make sure you go through it. Is your audience there? What is trending? Like, Facebook's been around for a while and it's still the most popular, so stick with what's going on. What resources do you have available? Skills, budget, and time. If you're gonna do TikTok, you better have a lot of time. Because man, that algorithm requires a lot of content and you gotta be on it. But I know musicians, there's been some real success there. So don't pick all of them, just pick what's best for you. Typically in social media, we have one primary and a secondary. If you have more than 3, you have too many. So that's usually my rule of thumb. Every guideline's a guideline, not a rule. None of this ever has hard, firm things. You could be everywhere, but if you're not going, unless you have a ton of time and you have a huge team, it's going to be very difficult.
I mean, I'll chime in. I have 10 channels that I manage.
Yeah, but not for each business.
For one, yeah.
You have 10 for one
For
brand?
For Midnight Gossip, I have 10 different sites and things that I manage.
And how's that going?
I'm managing.
Okay, and a lot of time is, I ask that and not seriously because it requires a ton of time, right?
Yeah, but this is, and it's, exactly. So, but it's, I do focus on 2 of them and then the other ones are, in the background, but they're ways that people can find me based on demographic and all these other things too. So I think that's what's important as well, right? And
that actually, it's a good point because some of them aren't required to take a lot of time.
Yeah.
And so that it's, as much as the rule of thumb is, there's always exceptions. So for instance, I'm a big LinkedIn person. That's my world. I live in the business world. And my B2B world is LinkedIn. So to have a LinkedIn, which every single one of you needs to have one. And you're gonna go, what? No, my audience isn't on there, right? However, potentially you could have corporate people. Potentially someone is in the business world who loves your music. Who's gonna go and scope you out because I spend time on LinkedIn. And how much effort does it have? And that's one of the things, how much effort to impact. You put up your profile, takes nothing to really, periodically you go in and you check it out. There's not a lot of work to it, but man, I wanna be able to find you. And so just put it up there. So that doesn't require a lot, unlike TikTok, right? So this is where you start to do, I say 3 as a rule of thumb because that's a starting point. And then you go from there. So anyways, this is a big one, is the channels, so.
And I will just say on the LinkedIn note, for musicians, it is actually a really good place for you. Like when I do conferences and attend a lot of stuff, a ton of the people that you want to connect with are on LinkedIn. This is managers, this is like sync licensing people, this is agents, like those people are business people, they are on LinkedIn. Those are people you want to be connected with. Like it matters to be on LinkedIn to connect with those people. So it's a highly valuable tool for musicians, even though it doesn't seem like it. You're like, it's not social media, it's not putting myself out there, but as a showing what your background is, and it's another place that people can find your history and background and the stuff that you're up to. So
yeah, and that's the other audiences.
Yeah,
because we usually want to just focus on our fans. So don't forget the other So that's your channels. The plan is really, how are you gonna execute on all of this? And so just find a way, the who, what, where, when, and how. Have a general plan for the year. And then, just make sure you follow through. Find a way to stay organized. It's really easy to get off rail. I use a program, as Nikki does too, called Asana. It's a good free one. And you can just go up, even as a solo person, you can just go up and mark down tasks. Notion is another one that people use.
What was the first one?
Asana,
Asana.
ASANA.
Yeah, I'm actually working on, I'm doing it a couple times in the next little bit for people, but it's a tool that I use in my coaching business that I make everybody use. But I'll be doing like webinars and stuff on that too. So if you guys are interested, then let me know and I can plan for maybe a webinar tutorial on how to set up Asana. I think it's just a really valuable tool for project management.
Yep, and whatever you do, just don't use, my only thing is, don't use email for managing your tasks. It's
Yeah.
not, and that comes from my corporate world, they still do that, it's crazy. I don't know if Nancy feels that in her corporate world too, but email and tasks don't work. So find a way, even if it's a Todoist, there's a ton of them out there. I won't get into it, but document, have a plan when you're doing content for your marketing. Don't really, some people go really far out in their marketing plan. So I usually have like key dates for the year. And then I'll do maybe a 6 month, but really get focused on the first quarter, like the first quarter of the year. And then you start to plan all of that. So it's just who do you need to reach? What do you need to do? We use and we're going to get into great content. Actually, that's a good segue. So we have to create content for our channels, right? And that's, yeah, go on the whole thing. So what is great content? But really you need to make sure that you're organized so that you have the ability to find that content. It's just too easy to get caught up in our business, and we're all guilty for it. I am one of the worst. It's like, oh, I get on a run, and then it's like, oh, and then I forget for like a month because I got busy with my business. And so try and be consistent. That's a really important part. When you have a plan, it's much easier to be consistent. We just put things in Asana. You find those key dates. You're going to put your touring dates in, your launch, your album dates, and then you can do a work back. And then you're also going to go, okay, I have to engage with my clients or my fans, right? So you'll have different things that you're going to do. So that'll be community stuff. You're going to talk about your product, your offering. You're going to talk about who you are, some of the work you're doing. Mostly they want to hear your music, and they also want to know who you are. So it has to be on brand, and Nikki's going to get into the on branding piece. Strategic means when you do content, be intentional. Know why you're doing it. Even if it so having that business plan, remember, then you have a marketing plan and you're going, oh, right, I haven't talked about myself in a while. And they really need to do that. Or I'm going to be launching my album here. I have to have a whole plan. It needs to go towards that goal. So that's the whole strategic piece. It needs to be interesting, which goes back to your target audience, know who they are. Because it's got to be on brand for you, but you have to know your audience to be able to give them stuff that's interesting. So you can go out and talk. Research is really important. Go out and interview them, talk to them, watch your social media for social proof, what posts are working well, what's not working well, things like that. So make sure it's interesting. Timely, of course, that's where the plan comes in again, because how many times do you go to a show and go, oh, I forgot, I never posted anything afterwards. So you can schedule things ahead of time. Sometimes some things can get scheduled, some things are timely. So you can make an alert on your phone, whatever that is, just try and be timely. Some stuff doesn't matter, but some stuff does. And then honestly get us to the point. That's great content. People, we know we have the attention span of a goldfish. So do get on point. However, there's a time to embellish, right? There's a time that if it's a long form article and you want to do it and say, if this is part of your brand, is you do tell long stories, which I love storytelling. So just remember the who you're talking to and do it when it's appropriate. So,
and I mean, just to that point too, like make long form and short form and see what resonates, but you have to do it repetitively enough that people are going to be like, oh, you do long form stuff. And I can come to your channel and see that you're doing long form stuff consistently. if you just do it one off and it doesn't fly, like that doesn't give you a good gauge of whether or not it works for your audience. So yeah, try to just do both of those for content.
Yeah, and education, so it's, again,
Yeah.
it's knowing your goals and who you are and what you want to do. Maybe your music is education focused. Because I know, well, see, the folk music, right, it's so amazing. One guy I know that does children's on climate change and things like that. And very much his music is a part of coming back to his website to talk about more. So just make sure it's on brand, know your purpose and why you're doing it. The joy of long form is you can now create this long form and you can cut it up into little pieces and it can go a lot longer. And when you are thinking long form, think about evergreen content. Evergreen content is typically what's the stuff that's gonna keep being used on and on, right? So sometimes you can't always do it, but if you can, think if you're gonna invest in it. So that's great content. It's really cool. It's awesome. Gets to the point. Tracking performance is the final. You don't know if you're doing well unless you start measuring, right? Measure for success. So do your social stuff, document it, put it somewhere, track it. Social media has great analytics, your website. I am a fan, and I know for the music world, it's not as much, but I believe the website is the hub of everything. Because what that does, it's a constant. Also, you have amazing analytics. So if you drive everything back to your website, that's it. That is the place where it's your home, your one address that people have to remember. It has all your updated stuff. As a fan, that is the first place I go, because from the business world, that's what we're used to. So it's a central place, and then all your social, and then you can find all your social links everywhere else. And now I can go and hang out. Oh, I see your Spotify. Oh, I see you're on Facebook. So website, hub of everything, track those results, subscribe to my email list, right? Because we get lost. We don't know where you are. It's like, what's their social media? What's their Facebook page name? Website, hub of everything. And it can be simple. Nowadays, Squarespace is my platform of choice now, but I've built websites on WordPress and you name it, HTML, old school. Oh. Anyway, Squarespace is so affordable and it's good. Wix is another one. Just make it simple, make it easy, and just keep it updated. So tracking performance, and then I think that was it for me. Any questions before we move on? And any places there that you're stuck or you have the biggest challenge? On any of those 7 steps, you can move to the next one, I think. Yeah. Is there anyone?
I'll just mention, when you talked about goals, you talked about SMART.
Yes.
And you went over that very quickly. I'm not sure if everybody's
That's in
aware.
here too, so we can feel
Is it?
it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of this is over, but what the joy is, that's a good segue, thank you. All of this whole digital marketing stuff is recorded. I've done multiple webinars. You can go to our website, incostudio.marketing/webinar recordings. The link's in the bottom, in the footer. And then also if you go to my lauradunkley.com, that's my personal website. That's where I did a lot, the musician one. So on the training resources, you can actually go in and I have content 101, I have all of those things. So all of the stuff that I did very quickly is totally available there for you guys.
I was just gonna ask, like, as a fan and as, like, when someone's like looking at your account, when do you think like the best time of the day that people are like the most active, or like yourself? When do you find that you're looking at like content, or like you're on your phone and you're like the most active, like looking at, I don't know, like entrepreneurs and like musicians posting? I don't know if that's a good question or not.
It's a very broad one,
Yeah,
and it's a
yeah.
good one, but your metrics will be your answer. So look to what you're doing, and that's where it's the more you put out content,
Yeah.
the more you're gonna see your things. But there's also stats out there that you can do some benchmark stats. You can just honestly Google best time to do email marketing. MailChimp is the one I use, but MailerLite, I
Yeah,
just found
that's-
out,
that's
is
what I
the
use
free
too.
one, is it?
It seems less, MailChimp makes me confused.
Well, MailerLite
No,
has got a better
yeah.
freemium option
Yeah.
from what I found out, but those metrics
Yeah.
is where you're going to do it, and there is no one size fits all.
Yeah.
Because my age, I go to bed, well, actually not lately, but too many presentations to do. And But I will scroll at nighttime. And most people do scroll at nighttime, especially in your stuff. Like that's where I find my Instagram and TikTok. I get sucked in. And it's music. It's always music that sucks me in. So it's good for you
Yeah.
guys. And but so first thing in the morning, probably not, because you guys are fun stuff, right? And so I'm not gonna be doing that right as I prep for work. Lunchtime and before bed would be my guess. That's how I would think most people are, even the young people, right? Saturdays, actually weekends, which was funny. Weekends is a big one too, because we have time. And people my age, well, not my age, because my kids are all grown up, but people with little kids, they're off doing dance class or they're off golfing and they're sitting in the background too. It's like, what do? You sit and scroll. So that might be a thing to watch, those metrics.
And
Yeah.
sorry, and just to clarify too, were you wondering when you should be posting, like your
Yeah.
content?
Like, I just didn't know, like, I like to know, like, when you're on your phone,
Yeah.
cause it's
Yeah.
like, as a musician, sometimes, like, when I see videos, sometimes I'll just, like, scroll past it sometimes. Or if it's, like, like you said, like, in the morning, or if I'm, like, at, like, a doctor's office, I can't
Yeah.
necessarily turn up my volume, like, all the way. But, like, yeah, like, what would be, like, the average, like, best time to, like, post?
Yeah, and that'll depend on your audience too, right? So
Yeah.
if your audience isn't a bunch of parents who have kids that are sitting in a dance rehearsal on a Saturday, they might not be using it then.
Yeah.
If your audience is your age and they're out having a great time and they're busy with their friends on Saturday, maybe they're not sitting on their phone, right? So it is very dependent. Do you have a business account for your Instagram or TikTok pages?
I haven't, like, made it a
Okay,
business.
so if you make it a business page, then those analytics show up and it actually shows, and again, the more you're using it and stuff, it'll show like a graph of when your audience is most online. I mean, I try to stay up on all of the algorithm crap because I kind of have to, but TikTok specifically, it's not about when your audience is online, that's about consistency. So with TikTok, you're gonna wanna post the same, like a video at a certain time every single day or once a week or whatever, that's consistency. Instagram, their algorithm keeps changing. As far as I'm aware, they're like like what I've heard from other industry people, they're like just post whenever and see what happens.
Yeah.
Because the Instagram algorithm isn't the same as the TikTok algorithm. It just functions differently. Because I don't think Instagram is as SEO optimized either, whereas like TikTok is very SEO optimized. So yeah, Instagram just post whenever and see what happens and see if you can get a gauge of it, but like
You cannot game the algorithm just when you think you know it. The best thing is to get in there and practice and know it. Also, Instagram, make sure you do have a business account
yes.
and make sure you do have a Facebook and that you connect, because you'll get more analytics that way.
Yes,
You can also schedule through the Meta.
which I don't recommend.
It's hit and miss, but the other scheduling is very expensive, so
Everything costs money.
everything costs money, so
Yes.
I
is that?
found with the scheduler too, is there's less features available, like
Yes.
for stickers and for all of those things that you can add onto your posts.
And I find I'll plan it and schedule out a couple things and I'll be like, why didn't it post? And then I like go back and I'm like, it says the right time, but it doesn't do it. And so this is not a great thing, but I'm more like, I bank a bunch of stuff and have it as drafts. And then I just am accountable to myself of when I go and post, and that's been, till I can afford my own marketing person. That is what works for me.
And batch doing it.
And batch doing it,
That's
yeah. Batch, do stuff on the fly for sure, but batching as much content as you possibly can is a godsend.
And we do say marketing is a habit, and that's where you just have to get into habit of doing it, which is why when we do our grow sessions, it's every Wednesday at 10 Eastern, which is where my partner is. At 8 o'clock, so they just show up, that's their marketing time. They start with the webinar and they do other stuff. So just find what works for you and schedule it. It isn't always, but that's the best practice. I think
Alright.
that was it for me.
Well, storytelling. You're still on deck.
Oh, I forgot about this. Okay, so this one's a quick graphic. Please, it's just don't pay too much attention. My whole point was those 7 steps. It appears to be linear, it's not. Business plan for sure is your start, but there's things you have to come and do, right? You track performance, but you actually have to think about your performance right at the beginning, because you can't track your Google Analytics until you put in that code on your website. You can't go back. So think about tracking your performance, have a measurement plan at the beginning. Your audience constantly gets refined. Goals, don't always be changing those too often. Just, you know, because,
Try to complete them.
yeah, complete them. Look, squirrel, we're all
Yeah.
entrepreneurs. Channels, yeah, once you dedicate to certain channels, do commit to them for a while. There's a lot of investment in setting them up and practicing with them. Content's constantly being updated. And your plan, you should review, well, I'm a fan of once a year, review your plan. You have a strategy, and then your plan's how you execute on it. At least once a year, go visit it. And again, biannually and quarterly and monthly. And that's it. So that is only meant to be a quick visual to show you it's not linear.
And I might just add this too, like a business plan sounds really icky, I think to probably most people in this room, and I'm sure if you've seen one, they look very overwhelming. Even a good place to start is like doing a mind map, like put you in the middle and all the things that you want out of the next year, right? Start with just like laying it out that way, and then once you kind of have this full idea of it, then you can start putting it into a business plan of just getting a brain dump out, because I find like I had to write so many business plans in the past and like when I was in school and stuff, and it's like you look at this document, it just looks, it's not nice to look at. So it's like even doing a mind map is just a really good way for brainstorm, even song ideas and stuff like that, like anything. I think using a mind map is a good tool to start with, and then translating that into these documents that you can reference back to that are a little more, you know, complete, I guess.
So on that,
Yes.
if you subscribe to my email list, not trying to do a plug-in, but I forgot it's still up there as my freebie at the acornstudio.marketing. At the very bottom, it says join my email list. You'll get a one-page business plan.
Yes.
And it's a total one pager plus an actionable what to do with it afterwards. And I use Miro. That's my online whiteboard thing. I use Post-it notes and I love it. So I use it a lot.
I know we both nerd out on all
Total
this software.
But you'll have access to that. So I forgot that was up there. And that's because I can't do the big stuff anymore. It's just, we can't, by the time you put it down there, it's changed.
Yeah.
So one pager just
Yeah.
helps. And brand storytelling, there we go. Now we got to tell your story. So much fun, go for it.
So just before we kind of get into the rest of the presentation, I just really wanted to make a kind of distinction with these three things that we're going to be talking about. So branding is your identity. It's what sets you apart, really connects you. It's who you are and how you want you to be perceived out there. Whereas like marketing is going to be how you sell that. So marketing isn't just content, isn't just, you know, I think a lot of people are just like, marketing is I have to do Facebook ads and content. It's not just that. It's a lot more. It's also, you know, how you get gigs and all these things. And then public relations is like your media relations, how you're shaping your own narrative into the public and how the public is going to perceive you. So yeah, it's just all of these things are just really important, but they are kind of slightly different under the umbrella of marketing. And then yeah, I have a bunch of pro tips at the bottom here too. So building a strong brand is key to truly connecting with your audience and unlocking your full marketing potential.
And this is me. So I get to come at you again as a fan. So why do you even do this, right? Because at the end of the day, you need to connect with your fans. So why it's important, the whole series is we hear your music. So whether we hear it on TikTok, right? It's like, oh, and I actually remember someone, and it's funny, I cannot remember his name, but I remember exactly what he looks like. And I will find him again, and I know his sound. And it was very unique and memorable, and I loved his music, so it totally connected. So I hear it, oh my goodness, I like your music. So I want to hear more. This is in my brain, right? So you want to get into your headspace of who it is, think how we think. So what am I going to do? First thing I'm going to do, whether I hear it on the radio or I hear it somewhere, I'm going to go on my phone. I'm going to be looking for you, which means you better be there, right? So let me be able to find you. And now, okay, so I'm listening to your music, it's awesome. Now I want to know more about you, because we're curious, right? It is the people behind the music that really matters. That's we want to connect with you. So we want to experience you and your music. So if we're listening to you, it's like, wow, are you playing in person? Like, I need to know more. I need to see videos of you. I really want to go live music because I love the live music, because now I get to hang out with other people that like your music, right? Like this is the experience. It's all about the experience. And now I want to connect with you even more because I want to let you know how much I love your music. And I want to share it with the world because this is really cool. And I want to see more of it. But I need to connect with it in an authentic way. I need to know who you are as a person. Because it's just because this is the fan, right? This is the celebrity status that you guys all have. You are celebrities. And so remember that we actually want to connect with you. And this was one of my biggest challenges when we did this whole COVID thing. It's like, I need to connect with you. So if you're not online and I can't get to you, you're gonna lose me. And then I'm gonna be sad. And you don't wanna make us sad. So you're gonna have an awesome brand, you're gonna share your music, and you're gonna tell me where you're playing. That is one of the things I really struggle with, is finding where you're playing. Or your website is outdated. It's like a tour date from last year. Do you think I care? No, unless there's a recording associated, I need to know. So please keep your content updated. Let me hear you. There was a jazz festival, so I'm originally from Ontario. Niagara's big jazz, Toronto jazz, all that good stuff. And there was a young artist. And so it's like, okay, I want to hear him before I spend $50 to go listen to him. I actually called the organization, said, I can't find him anywhere. She says, oh, he doesn't have any music online. I'm sorry, you're paying tickets, like you expect fans to pay those tickets. It's like so wrong. So please make sure all of those things are checked because I need to know your story. I need to connect with you. So that's pretty much the point of view to hope to hit home with that. I think there was, oh yes. So what we expect from our fans, that you are authentic, you're real, that your music makes sense, and you genuinely believe what you're singing and doing who you are. Make sure you're consistent in throwing things. Don't do one album, and don't have any music, and then all of a sudden expect to all of a sudden connect with us 3 years later. You consistently consistently doesn't mean every day. It could mean once a week. It can be once a month. Just be consistent. Make sure you're accessible to me. Like I mentioned, you got to be online somewhere. I'm an Apple Music, person. I also like Bandcamp. So I totally know
That's
that
good,
one.
that's where you get paid.
I know. And
Anybody is on
learned
Bandcamp and you're releasing music, go put your music on Bandcamp.
Bandcamp, I will pay because I want to pay. And I want to pay more. If you're going to charge me 20, what is there a place I can give you a tip? Is there more? Like, let us celebrate and support you. So make sure it's accessible. Make sure you're relatable. Don't think you're better than anyone. If your fan comes up to you, relate to your fan, talk to them, be there. But if your brand is aloof and then maybe that's okay too. But I can't imagine that's good because I don't understand that. And so be engaging and personable. Be real people, and that goes back to be authentic because they love you. We love you. So please do remember that. I know it's scary when you're going up there and you're all, you're worried about the music, but most of the time, if they connect with you through social, you can make a mistake, you can do things because we still love you. So please do show up as authentic people and make sure you give us really awesome music because no matter what, marketing doesn't make you great. That's the other thing,
Yeah.
But we definitely can amplify your greatness. So you got to work on your craft. And then go and connect with us in an authentic way. Okay, that's it from the fan world.
Yeah, and I thought, there's so much you can get into about like how to craft your story and this whole thing that we could have got into, but I appreciate the fact that you can hear it from a fan's perspective because I think we forget that as musicians. I forget that as a musician. I have to write about myself constantly and you're like over analyzing, right? But when you think about what a fan is reading and how they're seeing you or reading about you, I think it's just a much nicer way to that perspective is just really helpful, I think, when you're building that kind of stuff. So
and trust us. Believe us. When we tell you we love your music, oh no, oh it wasn't great. No, it's like, no, do not discredit what we're saying. Just say thank you. This is really great. And then you can go off and do whatever behind the scenes. But for sure, just appreciate the fact that we see it from this world and we love what we see. So
yes, I think that is a good point. So if you have got your QR codes there, we're just going to kind of briefly go through the brand identity worksheet. It is quite a few pages, but I just want to make sure that you guys are kind of clear on it and you don't have any questions as we go through it. Because this is going to be kind of the process of how you're going to start to define your brand story, and kind of who you are. And the important thing about any of this stuff, like, it's just writing it down. Like, quite honestly, if you're not writing stuff down and it is just in your head, you're not gonna get that far. So it's just really important to write this stuff down and know that all of these things are exercises. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just a matter of kind of really brain dumping and really trying to understand who you are. So yeah, page kind of starts out with passions and values. So identifying what drives you in your music and your life and what your core values are as an artist. So like, if you can kind of think of anything, does anybody have, you know, anything that comes to mind right away that they could use about any of this? No?
Authentic expression.
Okay, yeah, that could be one of your passions and values, right? And then how could you use that to make content and build that into other things, right? Like, and if that is one of your brand values, is that actually what you're doing and what you're living? Because if there's a, you know, a difference in those two things of how you show up online, or if you're in person, not that, but you are that online, right? It's just really formulating that kind of stuff. So yeah, that would be a great example. Does anybody else have anything that they can think of for their passions and values, or what drives you in your music?
To connect with people.
Perfect. And how could you do that, right? It's like building community, you know,
Let them know they're not alone.
exactly. Yeah, and definitely that absolutely is your music too. I know we've talked about that before. All right, so next is brand archetype. There is a link included in this, and the nice thing about using these kind of tools online is it really just kind of helps just kind of backwards engineer who you are, because you can add, it's just a little question. I haven't done it forever. I think it's just a questionnaire, and it kind of like, you're a creator, or a sage, or a hero, or an outlaw, right? They're just a nice way to read things and see what resonates, because sometimes you just get really caught up in your head and you're like, I don't know, what do people think about me? What do I think about myself? So using these kind of things. I also really love human design. I don't know if anybody knows about human design or Gene Keys, but like, I love those as like contemplative tools. Like, this whole journey of branding is finding yourself. Like, I don't want you to get so confused that it's all about business. Like, for me personally, and maybe you can agree with this, being a musician and being an entrepreneur is personal development, first and foremost. It is first and foremost personal development before it is about business and putting these tools into play. Because if you don't know yourself, then all these tools, you're just like, you can just write stuff down, but if it doesn't actually resonate with you, then it's kind of just a waste of your time. So, you know, the point of this is personal development.
And it's gonna help attract the right people. And it's always about attracting the right fans who are gonna relate to you. Not everyone will relate to you, and that's gonna be totally okay. But you need to find out who you are. So as an entrepreneur, like, I always have sort of 3 pillars. It's health, wellness, and sustainability. And I have been like that since the beginning of time. And when I started my bike shop, it was about, you know, just healthy living. So when I raised my kids, we could have this healthy lifestyle. There was no women in it, so I wanted to attract other women, and you're just having fun. So it's wellness. It's about her health, but it's about general wellness and sustainability as far as, you know, like, it's not just the environment, it's just how we live this sustainable life. So every choice I made, the people I hang out with, all of that is, if I had to choose music to write, it would be about, you know, wellness and plant life and going out hiking and the journey and storytelling, right? So all of that is me. So my music would be the same, my business choices, and then I have found that people just start to gravitate to you. So you actually don't really have to sell your music.
Yeah.
If it's clear and authentic and you know who's going to resonate with you and you're out there, they will find you. So it comes back to your story.
Yeah, and I will say too, it's like, if you are actually fully putting yourself out there vulnerably and authentically, like, your niche finds you, your fans find you. You're not out there trying to show up as like, oh, this person on TikTok did this thing, and so I'm gonna do this thing. It's like, if you're copying someone, the thing is already gone and it's already taken, and the whole point is finding like your own identity in this all. It's not about copying, right? And that's the biggest thing. Like I'm working with a coach right now, and it's like your niche finds you. Stop trying to find them. Like stop trying to niche down into something or your music or whatever, right? Find you, and then the people come.
So there's a little tiny book. It's called Tribe by Seth Godin. If you ever want it, have you read it? It's so awesome.
Nobody
It's
loves Seth
just-
Godin.
Oh, but yeah, and The Dip, that's the other one that's really good that he wrote, very little books. And it's about finding your tribe, so it's very cool.
Yes. All right, so the next one is your foundation. So what are your key messages and beliefs at the heart of your music? So kind of similar to your passions and values, but a little bit deeper, like what are the messages? And this kind of gets into your communication, you know, how you're communicating with your audience. Like, are there certain things that you're always saying and, you know, I want to say promoting, but like who you are, that key message of what you are and what you stand for? And this is always another good one too. So if you can find 3 words or phrases that capture the essence of your music. A really good way to just brainstorm, write out a bunch of things and, you know, like write out as many as you can and maybe go back and circle 3 of them that really stand out, because you can't be everything all at once. But you can kind of hone in on
And
kind
is-
of that.
And
as
I
well.
would anyone know any words that comes to mind? How you want to be known, or a phrase, or fun, lighthearted, edgy,
Quirky, yeah.
quirky, boring, that'd be me. Sorry.
This wouldn't be like words that you're drawn to using over and over again in your songs. Would it be like, I think about like
But maybe.
Amelia Curran, fridge poetry. Somebody gave that to me for Christmas once, and it's interesting that there are
Yes.
words that are common in her songs.
Yeah.
That were in fridge poetry. I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, if that feels like it resonates with you, absolutely, right?
Could be subconsciously, like that's
Yeah.
where if you go through your songs, that could be a type of reflection to go, so why do I keep using this word?
Yeah.
Is it good? Is it resonate with me, or should I stop using it?
Yeah.
This way.
Yeah. Anybody have any thoughts, words that come to mind about their music?
I find it really difficult to pick one, and it's not for the audience's sake, it's for me.
Yeah.
I love all genres. There's a few that are, I like less, but I really enjoy music.
Yeah.
And so it's really hard for me to like pick, right?
Maybe eclectic is a word.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe eclectic is your word, right?
Okay.
And that's a thing, right? So,
Versatile.
and with a lot of this stuff too, it's like, when you're working on this, like, I don't expect you to sit here and go through this whole thing tonight when you get home, but it's like, if you have this document handy and you just like, you can brain dump whenever words come to mind, right? Write them down.
Yeah,
It's the same as like when you're writing a song, right? Oh, I just had this hook or this melody, you want to record it really quickly or
Yeah.
write it down, right?
Yeah.
So these are just questions that you should be kind of mulling over as an artist to build that.
yeah, because I feel like, because I kind of lived a long time, that I've gone through different stages in my life.
Yeah.
So I mean, in my teen years, like there was all this dance and club stuff going on. I still like it. I still like some of the new dance and
Yeah.
club stuff that's coming out, right? And then, you know, so it is just really hard for me.
Nostalgia is a really good word
Yeah,
that a lot of
okay.
people love when COVID
Oh, well,
hit too.
that's kind of
nostalgia.
where I'm at right now anyways, the nostalgic thing from it, you know, but it's so hard.
Yeah.
And so I think I've said that I like stuff from the 70s, but I'll throw in the odd acoustic new stuff,
Yeah.
right? You know, so, but I like your word eclectic. I really
Yeah.
like that. I'm
Yeah.
gonna take that one.
Oh, please,
Yeah.
write that one. No one's worth, but
Yeah.
that is, it's like, just because someone says, oh, you have to be a certain niche
Yeah.
or whatever, it's like,
Yeah.
no, it has to be you,
Yeah.
and you'll find the thread. You'll
Yeah.
find it, it'll be your own, but maybe that sort of nostalgic or over the years. And
Oh,
then
yeah,
maybe
it takes a
people-
time to build it and to
Yeah.
become what you are,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Okay, I get it.
I
I
Yeah.
get
hear
it.
you there.
And this worksheet, like really think of it broadly, like it doesn't have to be like, just put as much information as you possibly can down.
Yeah.
That's the point. And then you have it as reference. And then you can go back to it, you know, when you wite a song too, and you're like, oh, I hate this song. Or like sometimes I'll do a recording and be like, that sounds terrible.
Yeah.
And then like 2 weeks later, I come back to it and I'm like, actually, that's really good. Why did I hate that so
Yeah.
much? You know, and so it's like,
Yeah.
it's the same thing, right? It's
Yeah.
contemplative. It's like just getting something down. And the second you start thinking about this stuff, or again, when you're writing a song or something, right?
Yeah.
Those ideas start flowing. And that's the point of
Yeah.
just getting this stuff out there, because I mean, again, like that's why I said, like, this is so personal development. None of you knew you were doing a personal development journey when you became musicians, right? But to be vulnerable, to show up, to sing your songs, to perform, to be yourself authentically is personal development.
Yeah.
And most people can't do that,
Yeah, I think
right?
to me, it sounds like kind of the authenticity is, it doesn't really matter so much what you're doing, as
No.
long as it's you and you're not doing it for someone else
That's it.
and you don't enjoy it, right? Because you're doing it for someone else, right? So,
Yes.
As long as you're doing it for you, yeah, exactly. So, like I said, write down as many words, phrases you can, go back and circle it, highlight it, star it, make it messy, just, brain dump what you can. So same thing, musical style, describe the styles or the genres and sounds that define your music. I had a great tip from one of my coaches to actually just like go on, if you have SoundCloud or Spotify, whatever, go on and make like an essence playlist. And this isn't like I sound like this person, it's even like, oh, I like these sounds from this artist. Like maybe it's like nature sounds and stuff, and you throw it on a playlist, or you really like Taylor Swift, but you also like, Jay-Z, and you like all these things, and just like go in and make a playlist of all of the things that really inspire your music and what your sound, what you want to sound like. And you have that as a reference, right? You can be like, oh, I can go, maybe do some research on these artists, and kind of again, it kind of just helps you have this actual tangible thing of what kind of encompasses. So for you, right, you're in the 70s and some club stuff, and so it's going to be really eclectic.
yeah,
And you can kind of pull that word from looking at all of those things, or what is the commonality, what is the thread between all of these things, right? Because yeah, I mean, for some of you, it's like I play folk music or I play country, like sometimes it's a little more linear. For us, like our set list, our hour-long set list is like gritty kind of industrial synth pop. We have like a Latin infused like drum solo in one of our songs. We have really pop music. We have slower songs. There's like kind of a variety, right? But it still all sounds like us,
similar, yeah.
right? So we'll kind of get to the next couple ones in the next bit of our presentation, but this is thinking about colors, images, symbols that resonate with your music and vibe. Again, stuff that you can do is like go on Pinterest, go on Canva, make a board, and start being like, oh, I really like the colors of this like couch in this room or whatever. Like it doesn't have to be this is my music, but it's like putting colors and symbols and imagery together into like a Pinterest board to just help give yourself a visual. So if you are someone that is struggling with identifying your brand and kind of what you're all about, then using visual tools I find is very, very helpful. You can be like, oh, like, I mean, I have so many Pinterest boards where I'm like, oh, this is what my like stage style looks like. And so I can go reference that for like, I'm like, oh, if I feel like inspiration for how I want to look on stage, or, makeup or hair ideas or something like that, then I have that as a board for me personally. But yeah, when I was coming up with like Midnight Gossip branding, like I have a ton of different boards that constantly change, trying to find color palettes and things that really embodied our music and what we did. And then style reflection. So yeah, this gets into how does your personal style reflect your musical brand. So I am a firm believer that, again, this is the authenticity aspect, that you are your brand. I'm wearing a pink shirt today because it matches our presentation. It's on brand. I have my pink water bottle, right? Everything I do is on brand because I live it. And I know, like Laura, you just said too, like we were just talking the other day, she's like going out finding sustainable Christmas decorations because she lives sustainability. So whatever it is that you live, and yeah, like go look, if you don't know what your own style is, some of us don't, right? Like, I don't know, I just wear, I mean, to be honest, I wear like Lululemons in the same junky t-shirt at home, Monday to Friday. So it's nice having a reason to get dressed up, but, go through your wardrobe at home, see what kind of style your clothing is, and like, see what kind of like, do you have like boho kind of like decor in your house? Do you have like crystals everywhere? Do you have a bunch of sports memorabilia? Like, look at your entire surroundings, and that kind of informs who you are as well.
So that's unfortunate.
And why is that? Well, now I gotta know.
When you see me on Hoarders, then you'll understand.
I'm going to a very fancy Christmas party in December, and my friend said, "Do you have any shoes?" And I said, "Yes, I'm wearing them." These ones. And she said, "Well, I guess we're blinging those up." But yes, this is my signature.
But if that is,
Oboes.
Then you should wear
but
it.
the thing is, if that is it, then do it. And show up authentically as yourself, everywhere, online, offline. Period, right? My mentor last year, she was saying, she was on a flight and she was like, oh, I was kind of like just wearing like a junky t-shirt, whatever, I was flying, whatever, didn't think too much of it. She's like, I ended up sitting next to a producer, like a big producer. And she was like, from that moment forward, she's like, no matter if I'm flying, I'm on brand. I always look like myself. I always look on brand because she's like, you never know who you're gonna meet. And this doesn't mean being like completely dolled up. This is like, I'm gonna wear a pink t-shirt today because this is part of my, whatever that is. It's not being in the full kind of garb or something, but just really think about how you can embody your brand everywhere. And once you can do that, then it actually becomes easier. And if you think about it, you know, like I love doing it now. It's like I have a section in my closet, it's like midnight gossip stuff that I wear when I go out to events, when I go to shows, so I always look on brand.
And it doesn't have to be so extreme too.
No, I'm an
Like
extreme
some of you
person.
guys should go.
I'm a highly I'm extreme with this, so take that with what you will.
And there's you, the private you, and then there's you, the professional you. Please know that there's a difference.
Yeah.
You do not have to be dressed around home, private. I love my sweats and my yoga stuff, and I live and breathe that sort of comfort. But when I go out professionally, I kind of have to do my professional me.
Yeah.
But they're both me.
Yeah.
So please know that
Yeah.
it's a spectrum.
And my spectrum is at 12 and the scale is 10. So yes, but I want to give you like the full scope of like the extreme of what you could be doing, or to think about those things, because I think a lot of people don't. You're like, oh, I'm a this, and I'm a mom, and I'm a musician, and I'm a this, and I'm a whatever, but it's like, it's also like the musician side is the fun side. It's like the creative side. It's like, if you can embody that all the time, like, wouldn't you rather? You know, anyway, that's just me. But all right, so the next couple sections are more about your personal story. So this is really getting to, you know, the root of your story. Like, honestly, like you can write as much here and this extends. So like go in and brain dump as much of your story as you can. You know, when you started playing, how you discovered your passion for music, like really go into that and have it written down somewhere is really helpful to have as a reference. I have done this, I try to do this kind of like once a year even, like just to rewrite my story, because it kind of changes too when you add different insights and things, right? But not that you're really, I mean, unless you get huge, which like let's hope we all do, right? Your story of what you did, you know, learning how to play guitar at 2 and whatever, like that's not going to be in your bio or anything, but it's just a nice place to have your entire story written out somewhere that you can pull from stuff and that you just know. And even for if you go in for interviews and stuff, if you have it written down sometimes and you're like, oh, I'm not, so it helps you prepare for interviews and so many other things. So yes.
What if elements of your musical story are alienating to your current world? Like, I've started in classical music and I find that like, I used to just tell the honest, authentic story of that, but I also find that like is alienating to people who do not start in classical music. People think I have a stick up my ass. So like, should I just not mention that part and like craft a different story?
I mean, I guess it depends, like, we'll kind of talk about this a little bit later, but this is kind of like your broad story. This is just brain dumping. This is this initial dump of information that you're going to do. When it comes to who you are today, you should be talking about who you are today.
Yeah.
Right? So probably if you're not playing classical music anymore, you're not going to talk about that. Or maybe if you're like in a set and you're like playing this and you're just like, maybe you joke about it. Maybe you're like, oh man, like this song is kind of has a little classical undertones and like most people find this alienating, right? But like you can incorporate it in a different way.
Or you could play a game, find the stick.
Yeah. Yes, we could do that. But you know, but like when we get into talking about your EPKs and stuff, like you're talking about current you. So you're not, I mean, unless you won some accolades in classical or something like that, that are like, oh, like I, you know, was whatever award for classical music. You know, you're not really gonna be talking about.
And
current,
you know
so-
what? And you don't need to, but be proud of who you
Yeah.
are,
Yes.
okay? Like with something like that, they don't like that, they're not your people maybe.
Yeah.
Like, it's just that you don't have to go on and on about it, but
Yeah.
this is who you are. And-
Yeah.
And be proud of that.
And I think too, it's like when we come from somewhere, it's like, you're like, but that's where I came, you know, like, it's just like, it is this talking point, but yeah, it is
Oh.
still,
And Nancy,
But it is part of your story.
it is.
It is.
And so your classical music will influence you whether you think it does or not.
Yeah.
It has a role in your life. And lots of the cool, that could be a cool story. You know, it doesn't have to be a negative.
Maybe it's like, I came from this background and I learned that I don't like having to stick on my ass.
Yeah, exactly, and like changing the narrative and making it a fun story, right?
but it's you, and I, you know, one of my, it's Baroque, I'm a Baroque freak, love it. And my son goes, I can't remember when it was, and he was playing this music, and it went, what? That's like Baroque, I was all excited, and he's going, no, this is from a video game, Mom. And I went, well, it's total classical, you know, undertone, so cool, classical, so just, again, be proud.
Yes. Any other questions on that? Yeah.
On that note, like, how, like, it's kind of good to do shows with people when you're looking at like someone's bio versus your bio, because I'm doing like a show with someone and she talks a lot of who her inspirations are rather than where she came from. And then for me, like, I'm like, oh, like, I came from the Young Canadians and I'm a singer in Rev 52 and I'm a self-taught musician where I barely talk about my sound. So should I be focusing on like, oh, I came from this, like, kind of basically spewing out my resume of music on a bio, or should I be kind of less, like, kind of putting more emphasis like on my sound? I don't know what's a better thing to put on a bio.
I mean, I think generally speaking, the only time you really should be talking about your bio is if you're giving the information to someone who's announcing you.
Yeah.
Right? When you're on stage, you're telling a story. You're talking about whatever the songs are. You're building a story throughout your set list. Like, and I will say this for us, for example, like, we plan out scripts. We know what we're saying in between, but we build a story. We're like, okay, so we're playing the Calgary Tattoo and Art Festival. We're like, okay, well, like, obviously let's talk about tattoos. And so we interweave tattoos and talking about that, which is going to be familiar with our audience. So we tailor our script more to be crowd engaging than to talk about myself.
Yeah.
So if I can, for me, it's like, I would rather engage with the crowd in whatever way I can figure out a connection point, and also show up as myself, like where we joke about, you know, we're like, oh, this song is like one of my favorite songs. It's really quirky. Sounds like I have, like, it's what I think ADHD sounds like, right?
Yeah.
So I can still interweave my story in there, but not in such a Rev 52, da 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 da.
Yeah.
But I think it's a valid question what
Yeah.
you're asking.
Yes.
Is before she walks in the door, this is what people are reading about.
Yeah.
Do you think it has to relate to Joanna? Do you think it's better to have the bio about your history, or do you think it's more valuable to have who you are and influenced by?
Well, I'm,
Well, yeah. Well, I
as
know.
a fan, right, too, it's like, your history is there, but it's gotta always be there, but it's underplayed as you evolve, I think, as a musician, right? It's like you're always going back to, this is where I came from, this is my credibility, but now I'm gonna stand on my own. Your history will be there, but it'll be at downplay. It's gonna be who you are now, and I think you'll evolve.
Yeah.
So I think it's there, but you're gonna change it, and as you evolve as a musician, your bio should evolve
Yes.
to be who you are right now, and then it's not so much
The accolades.
your history.
Yeah.
No, and I actually don't care. As a fan, you gotta win awards.
Yeah.
If I like you, you know, and anyone in the sales world knows that we buy things from people we like, right?
So
And
get to
so-
know you on the bio,
Please.
get to know, be the intimate, I like the idea.
Yes,
Yeah.
and likable, yeah, put the things there, but really, who cares?
What are we
Right.
talking about here? A bio, like a written bio?
It's everything
being
where
on
you're,
stage?
On being on stage, well,
it's
Like,
your,
what do you mean?
Like, basically, you'll see some bios, like explaining, like,
So you're talking about a written bio?
Like
Like,
who's
right
seeing
bio.
you when you're gonna perform?
like, when they're
and they read about
explaining
it?
you.
When you're writing bio.
Like, right now, I don't really, I don't have like, oh, she sounds like this artist, or she is like explaining my sound, or like even my genre.
It's just your
Yeah.
past
It's just my
accolades.
past,
Yeah.
because I kind of, I've just been performing so much, where it's like, oh, should I revisit the bio every single year? Is that something that you should
so
always
we
revisit?
will get into that, yeah.
You should redo your bio. The
You
first
should-
thing
you
on your
sh-
bio is
You
like
should redo your bio every single time you release a new song. Every, and you should be making a press kit every single time you release a new song.
Yeah.
So your bio, and I ended up taking this part of the presentation because I didn't think we would get to it, and it was talking about building a bio and building a press kit and like writing tips and stuff like that, so we
Another
can definitely
session.
talk, that's like an hour-long session by itself,
Yeah.
but yeah, like your bio, your intro, it should have your name and all your genre and your comparable. The comparable artists are specifically important in a bio when you're new, because nobody knows who you are.
Yeah.
So you need to say, like, this is like in your bio when you submit it for a festival. Generally, they're gonna ask you who are the comparable artists because they wanna be like, do you fit here? Right? If I'm like, oh, we sound like St. Vincent Fantagram and the XX. Well, we're not gonna fit on a folk festival.
Yeah.
Right? And so you have to know those kind of comparable artists that should be in your bio. Influence is not as much, like, you can say I'm influenced by like genres and stuff. I wouldn't get too into that. Like the comparable artist part is more important. And then your background is more accolades. Like unless there's something really notable that you've done, like you shouldn't really be including it. And then your background should only go back at like max 5 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have a whole
and
other
so,
thing
and
on that.
remembering where your bio is gonna go goes back to the audience. Remember, you have all the different audiences, so who's gonna be reading this? Is this to go on a show, whether I'm gonna think if I'm gonna even pay tickets to show up? So what does your fan wanna know? What does the event coordinator need to know? So just,
Yeah.
it'll be tweaked, I think,
Yeah.
am I right on that?
Yeah, so essentially you wanna write a long, you have a long bio and a short bio, so your long bio has a lot more information. And then you can kind of whittle that down for different purposes. It's kind of like repurposing content, where you're gonna have a long form version of it, and then you can chunk it down for different places, and then you would maybe have your long form bio on your website.
It's a small synopsis that you need for a show at Gravity.
Yeah.
That it is something that
Yeah.
is what Laura just said, people want to consume you,
Yeah.
they want to come and decide if they're gonna have you for dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you don't sound yummy, they're not gonna come.
Yeah.
Like you've got to be the product, so
Yeah.
I think that is very important, that we all have something smart and concise
Yes.
and not drawn out, just something like, oh my God, Eden sounds, if you haven't heard Celine Dion, because nobody has, you know, you know what I mean, like just, and put your fun parts that
Yeah.
make people go, damn, I wanna hear that girl.
And I will just say for like for these writing tips, and I don't know if you've done the bio writing with Val yet, but never, like, no hype in your bio, and I'll be like, only put facts in it, like world renowned, blah, 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 or like these grandiose statements, like don't use unique and do not put hype in it. Like if you say like this artist is so incredible, and then you have to have like a press something to back it up, right? Like a reference almost, like so-and-so from CBC Radio said this was incredible, right? Like you need to have things to back up any of those statements when you're saying things, but just keep it factual, but keep it interesting, so it's not just like this dry, like, hi, my name's Nikki, I play an indie pop duo Midnight Gossip. You know, like just make it fun, but not keep it factual. Any other, yeah,
Do they still use this one-page idea?
Yes.
yes,
Definitely.
yeah, and that's kind of like another, almost like another version of like an EPK, so we'll get to that kind of stuff a little bit later. Anything else before we kind of finish off this and then probably do lunch, I'm guessing? What time is it?
We're at 11:20.
Oh, that's not bad, okay. So yeah, defining moments, so then, yeah, again, talking about your pivotal experiences that has shaped your artistic path. Again, these are just kind of contemplative questions to just get out some of this information. And then this is how you're gonna connect with your audience. So who do you envision as your ideal listener? And what do you wish to communicate with them and is there anyone else? So for this one too, it's just like, who do I really want my music to reach? It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to, but it's just thinking about who is going to be the person that's gonna be listening. And like for us, it's like, a lot of time it's, you know, people that are into pop music, but like synth pop music, but also electronic music, but also like kind of folk music, because we have storytelling and just trying to kind of like piece out what kind of like what your music represents and who would be maybe interested in that. It's like, do people really like bowling who listen to your music? Or I'm just trying to think of like really obscure things, right? But like to make it a little more clear, right? Like, do people who like reading certain books, listening to certain podcasts, listen to your music, right? So just really thinking about broadly who your audience would be, even starting with you as your ideal fan, right? Think about who you are and what you like and kind of go from there and be like, oh, well, if I like this, then I might also like this, right? So kind of starting with you as a benchmark is kind of a nice place to start.
And target, that's your typical target audience persona.
Yeah.
And so we want to create an avatar, right? And then you get this persona. Again, I have a whole thing on that in the boring business world, but you guys should do it too.
Yeah.
And I will say, be as specific as possible. Like,
Yeah.
seriously, are they vegan? What kind of ice cream do they like? Because it's actually going to inspire you for content too. It'll be surprising.
It inspires you for content. Plus, like if you do want to do Facebook ads and stuff, you need all this information.
Yeah. And get
Right. And from a business standpoint, you do need very specific information, but start broadly because it is very overwhelming. And like, I mean, I hate it. I hate target audiences. Like this comes from someone who does it. I hate it. I'm like, I hate thinking about it, but just because I do this stuff doesn't mean it's easy for me.
It's the only thing I really love. So,
Well,
okay.
we can team up
But
on
there's
that.
other stuff I don't. Okay, we'll do it.
Okay, perfect. Now I know. Okay. Is that making sense then for the audience stuff? Yeah. And then what artists or movements inspire your work and how does this influence your brand? So again, this is a really good one too, to think about what your audience might be interested in. Are they animal rights activists? You know, are they huge Swifties? Are they, you know, are they vegan? Like, are they part of huge movements? Because what you're trying to do as a brand is create a movement. You want to create something that people are going to get behind. So understanding kind of what other artists and stuff have created with their movements or things that you're interested in and how that relates back to your audience is another good way to just kind of suss out.
Well, and
who
it
those people
goes
are.
back to being authentic.
Yeah.
So if you are connecting with people like from the very roots and, you know, grassroots people, and maybe you're gonna have a lot of animal rights, vegan, please don't show up with a leather jacket on stage, right?
Yeah.
Like this is about being
Yeah.
authentic all the way and about also being on brand.
Yeah.
So don't fake it. Don't
Yeah.
go out, you know, in private and you're on an airplane and you're wearing, you know, fur
Eating beef
and
jerky.
somebody could find you and it could be your fan. You're like,
Yeah, that's
shoot.
not.
So yeah, just be true to yourself.
Yeah. And then just kind of, I think you're asked about the SMART goals, so that's on this page. So this is kind of success and happiness. So I really want you guys to all think about what success means for you and what happiness means for you. Is success touring like Taylor Swift? Is that what success means to you? Because if you're comparing yourself to that and you're where you are right now, like that's a big gap. That's a big gap that you're gonna need to build a lot of business plans and things like that and probably have millions of dollars in your bank account or a rich family to get there, right? So let's be realistic about what success actually means. Is that doing music full time? Is that quitting your day job, doing music full time? Is that just playing for fun? Is that success to you, right? So really define what actual success means, because that's your benchmark for yourself. And that can always get bigger, right? You're gonna like achieve the goal and be like, oh, well, even for us, we were like, okay, a 3 to 5 year goal is playing music festivals. I've heard it's actually really hard to get on them. You know, it takes a lot of work. You need to be a little more established. And we got on a music festival within 8 months of starting our band. So we're like, okay, well, I guess our 3 to 5 year goal happened quick. So we need to change that. So that was like a success thing for us, right? So just as long as you understand what that means for you, and then, yeah, define what happiness means for you, because that's another big one. So yeah,
So,
And then-
so just for
yeah.
the SMART, so SMART means.
Well, yeah, that's the next one.
Oh, you're.
So this was just
okay.
defining success and happiness, and then lastly, it'll be list 5 specific goals that you want to achieve in 2024. So this goes over it, so specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-based. So specific being, I want to play 5 shows in 2024. Not, I'm thinking that I think I should do da 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 da. Be very direct and intentional and write it down. And make sure it's like achievable. Being like, I'm gonna go on a stadium tour in 2024. Like maybe that's not quite achievable. You know, if you're never written a song before, right? So make sure that every goal that you have is kind of relevant and achievable. I mean, we talked about goal setting in the Write On program. You guys are familiar with this. But yeah, just make sure they're specific. That's the biggest thing. If they're like, I just want to be happy playing music, then define what happiness means, right? What does happiness mean? And then you can actually like gauge it on a tangible scale. Any questions on that?
Nikki, I just want to say something about goals. How many people, since we've done the Write On, have created the goals and looked to your timelines to see if you're on track? How many people do that?
I use Asana to track it.
So
The tracking tool.
it is, if you needed a book to know if you're on your journey, it is your goals. And you get to change it and move it and tick things off and rejig it. But it is a Bible, it is a guidebook, it's everything. If you want to lose 5 pounds, if you
can't wish it.
You can't wish it. And what is that line? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Yeah.
So if you have this little thing very close to you, am I on target? And then if you feel like shit because you haven't done anything in your music industry, pick that Bible up or whatever you call it and look to see, oh, what could I do to work towards it? Because we can't always have it. It doesn't work out the way we plan it all the time, but use it as a tool to keep yourself on track.
So then to bring it back to marketing, and our marketing goals are the same. So set out SMART marketing goals. So if I need to do that, what do I have to do? I have to design a website, right? And I'm gonna design it by this, on this platform, so that I can reach with my audience specifically. And then I'm gonna set up on social media, I need to get X amount of followers on Instagram so that I can do this. So there is ways to make them specific. So make sure and then your marketing rolls up to business, which is why I can't do a marketing plan if you don't have business goals. As soon as you have those business goals, I'm gonna tell you how marketing is gonna support that. So once you do your business goals, do your marketing goals.
What did SMART stand for? Can you say it again?
Yeah, it's on the last page of this as well, but it's specific. So make sure it's specific, intentional, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time sensitive, right? You're gonna put, I'm going to play 5 shows by September 14th, 2024.
Yeah.
That's one goal. I'm going to double my Instagram followers by posting 3 pieces of content across all platforms, you know, once a day, right? Whatever that is of like by this date, right? Just making it very like
You don't have to
cut
get
and
into
dry.
specifics about the type of content, but definitely you want
Yeah.
to say who you're gonna reach and what you want to achieve, so.
Yeah.
This is kind of off topic, but in terms of like, have you ever had where you come across someone's stuff too often, so you unfollow them because you just constantly get their stuff? But like, where's the happy medium for there?
Yes, but they're usually related to me.
Yeah, well, okay, so that on the Facebook world, and I've had to talk to a few citizens on that. If you've been posting on your Facebook page to your personal page, and it's mostly your family and friends, please do create a professional page. Transition them all over, then only invite those ones. Because I know there's been family members that have been frustrated with over posting to them too, but anyways, that was just a aside. But the answer to that is if they start unsubscribing, you might want to dial it back.
Yeah, if you notice that like, if you notice your followers and stuff like on your page, you're like, oh, I'm posting 3 times a day. And especially if you're posting a ton and you're not really getting engagement, you're not getting followers, you're getting, I mean, there's tons of, a third of accounts on Instagram are bots anyway. You know, so like my numbers, like I'll hit a number and then it'll go between 10 and below that for like a month or something. It's super bizarre. So
You said that you're not gonna talk specifically about content to post, but if you have a few thoughts to share about that, that would be swell.
That was just more in the goal.
That was
Oh,
That was in
okay.
the goals, we don't
I
have to
mean,
get that
yeah, again, getting
specific.
into content and stuff is, it's a whole huge thing, but yeah, we can still chat about that,
Okay.
kind of during lunch and as, it still comes up in part of the other presentation too, so. So how's everybody feeling about this 6-page document you're all gonna fill out?
We will be marked, we have 1 week.
Yeah,
then-
you'll have 1 week to fill it out, I will be grading it out, no. So this is a living document. So it is just go and you can save it, make a copy, you'll have a copy for yourself, it is a living document. Leave it on a computer, print it out. Write all over it, just keep something like a document of all of the stuff that you think of for yourself. Again, keeping it in your head is not a plan. Write it out, write out your plans. And I will just say, I can't remember the exact stat, and I meant to look this up before, but I did a presentation last year to some Melbourne University students on motivation and goal setting. So if you write down a goal, you are like, you have a much higher likelihood of achieving it just by like literally thinking about it and writing it down. If you have a post-it note of that goal, maybe by your computer, if you look at it every single day, if you read it every single day, it exponentially increases your chances of achieving it. And I do have a stat that I can find. It was referenced, I'm not just pulling this out of my ass, but writing down your goals helps you achieve them. Writing down a business plan helps you achieve your business plan, right? Like writing stuff down matters. It's the same thing. If you think of a song in your head and you don't write it down, it's gone. You're not going to remember your song, right? So anyway, that is probably all we'll talk about on that stuff. Sorry, what time is it? Yeah, it's 11:34.
You guys good for a little bit more?
So just wondering,
We have till 1 o'clock, right?
I'm just wondering if we do now and then 12 to 1
Yes.
for the rest of it.
That's probably
Yeah,
good. And
'cause then we will
can
get
chat
to
about
visual
stuff.
branding, yeah. So why don't we take a break now and then I can rattle off the
Eat
last
those damn
hour.
muffins.
Thank you. I'm going to stand and, sorry, I just swallowed water down the wrong hole. I was like, I'm dying. Okay, so we're gonna get a little more practical of how you can apply a bunch of this stuff, which will be for visual brand. So I started off, there's a lot of elements to branding, including kind of messaging, brand voice, a lot of like that kind of stuff. But for today, as a very foundational aspect, I thought it would be best to start with the visual brand aspect because that aspect really easily translates into your EPKs. So the visual brand is how like digitally and visually, like online, you're going to look to people. Again, this also includes how you look in person on stage and everything, but this is really more tied to your EPK. So, you know, your photo shoots, all the kind of graphics and stuff you're going to put into that. So your visual brand is a distinctive and cohesive style that represents who you are as an artist. And it plays a crucial role in how you're perceived by your audience and the industry. Still dying. It's okay. We'll figure it out. Okay, so one of the big things with your EPK, again, if you're releasing your first song or you're, you know, basically new, nobody has heard you before. So how people look at you when they go onto your social media and they're looking at your social media, they're like, oh, I can kind of tell what you look like based on the imagery that you have on your social media page or the imagery that you have on your website, or, you know, sending my EPK to a radio host, they can open it up and be like, okay, I can kind of understand what the vibe of this song is going to be. And that's kind of the point, is to really introduce you like you're standing in front of them, looking the way that you look, acting the way that you act, but it's a, you know, electronic, tangible document for them. And yeah, you can really shift your audience's perception of your brand just by choosing the right visuals. All right. Oh, do you want to?
Oh, I can do this.
Man
the mouse.
There we go.
All right, so the biggest takeaway here is that your brand makes you more recognizable. It's what differentiates you. If person A and person B are both playing folk music, though they're both playing the same music, but what's differentiating about them, right? you can all be kind of having similar types of music, but it's the way you're going to differentiate yourself that's going to set you apart. And it creates trust with your audience. The more consistent you can be with how you show up, again, like we were saying, like you're like, I'm a vegan and I care about animal rights, but you're eating beef jerky wearing a leather coat, that doesn't align with your brand. So just everything that you do is to build trust with your audience. And then it can also lead to brand value creation, which is, you know, maybe you want partnership deals, you want brand deals with other companies. Building your brand will, you know, build brand value as well. So you can leverage your brand value for future partnerships, collabs, and growing your team. You know, if you want to get a manager or something like that, or book agents, like you need to have a brand and you need to have something recognizable that someone can buy into. All right, so how your brand works for you? Well, it creates consistency. We've talked about this. For the visual aspect of it, that's using colors, fonts, kind of the same general aesthetic that's going to be consistent, build trust. It makes you look really professional. People that don't have brands don't look professional. Like they're harder to, like you can't really gauge them, you know. If you have a brand that looks recognizable, it makes you stand out because it makes you look professional. It makes you look like you care. If you put time and effort into any of this stuff, it makes you look like you care, and people will buy into the fact that you care. It creates magnetism. So yeah, it sets a vibe that attracts like-minded individuals. We kind of talked about that already. And it simplifies your creative process. So while all of this stuff is daunting and exhausting and overwhelming, and I know because I've done it myself, it really helps to simplify. If you know who you are, if you know what your brand looks like, it's like creating templates. If you have a bunch of templates available that you can just plug and play, it makes everything a lot faster, a lot easier without having to think too much. If you're not like, oh, does this color work? Or should I wear this or whatever? As long as you have that stuff planned out beforehand and you have like a template of it or brand board, it makes it just that much easier. All right, and yeah, your brand style, you don't have to keep forever. You think about, I had it on the other side, but yeah, like Taylor Swift, for example, you know, like she has different eras. It's like she still has a core brand, but like her visual brand changes, right? Between like Reputation and like her newest album, like Midnight, they're like very different aesthetics, but it's still her. So your brand style doesn't have to stay the same forever. And I mean, we change ours every time we release a single. That's just something that's part of our brand that we like to do, but you can keep it the same. But if you do want to change it slightly, then keep some elements the same throughout, just again, for kind of a through line of consistency. All right, so we're just gonna get into the visual components of a brand. And there is a visual brand checklist in the documents. So this kind of gives you a breakdown of all the things that you're gonna need. Which is kind of like your color codes and everything. So it's just a quick little checklist, but that is in the Google Drive on that QR link. Oh yeah, well, colors, we'll go through colors, fonts, graphic elements, photography and filters, and word marks and logos. Those are kind of the key components of your visual brand.
And that's what you had on the other slide. So many people think your brand is your logo. And it's just so much more. But a logo is a visual identifier.
It's like a stamp, right? Your logo is just kind of like Nike or the thing. It's like this visual representation. It's like your signature out there, but it's not a brand. It's just a part of it.
Yeah, and it's worth doing. I mean, so when you just start, sometimes there's just your face and all the profiles. But it is nice to have also that symbol that sits on the side. So.
All right, so colors. At the simplest, you want to do one or two main colors, complementary colors that work with one another. You want to choose a neutral base that is not black or white. This is kind of when you're thinking about like content and templates and what your website's going to look like on a broader scale, right? Like those are kind of things to keep in mind. Black and white are always included. You're always going to want to have a grayscale. So those colors are always included. So yeah, one or two main colors, one neutral color. And then we suggest using coolors.co It's a great place. Canva has it as well, but if you want to click there, oh yeah. Yeah, just like the website here. So if you want to go here, you can just kind of, I don't know if anybody has used this. Has anybody seen this before? Yeah. So if you go onto the website, you can just start hitting spacebar on it essentially, and it just gives you a bunch of different color combinations. So you can just sit with it and play with the different color combos, which is really helpful. Like sometimes if you're like looking at the eyedropper, or, you know, like you're just trying to figure out what that is. You know, part of the brand identity is identifying colors, right? For Midnight Gossip, we went with purple. Purple kind of has, on the previous side too, kind of thinking about color psychology. Purple has like this royal feel to it. It can also be kind of edgy. It can also be soft depending on the transparency of it, right? Or the pastelliness of it. So it was a good color for us, and that's like one of our main brand colors. Yeah.
Can you go back to the previous slide?
I'm gonna try. Yes.
Yes.
So is this one of the things that can change then? Because you said that you change your visual brand when you release a new single. Can the colors change, or is that something that you would suggest keeping consistent?
So keeping some of them consistent, like we have a primary purple color that we use, but then we kind of change the other complementary colors, and there's some examples in the next couple slides, so it'll give you a bit of a better representation of what that looks like. But yeah, I mean, that's, again, this is like the examples I'm going to use are my Midnight Gossip ones, and this is right the scale of 12 of 10 of what we do, because my bandmate also is a visual graphic designer and artist, so I actually have someone on my team that does that, so I can kind of be the creative director for the ideas of what we all do, and then he can put it together in the nicest, prettiest ways, because this was the extent of what I could do on Canva. So
And go, and this is part of going into your brand story too. Go and find those inspirational brands out there. What's the colors, the style? Does it match you? Are you retro? Does the retro style? Are you bold and simple? Are you earthy and all of that type of thing too? And then do a little bit of study. Just Google, the psychology of color. Because red is passion and strong,
fiery, kind of aggressive too, in a way,
which is why they say don't paint your bedroom red unless
unless you really want to.
So and blue is power, productivity, solid.
It's also like peace, like it can be.
Yeah, I guess it depends.
Right, like I'm looking at this blue wall, right? Like to me, this is like that. Like a bright blue would be more power, authoritative.
And it is just the primary blue is productivity, and green is earth and energy and things like that, which is why most of ours, but then there's different greens.
Yeah.
Mine is more earthy in my brand. The Right On is definitely more distinctly different green, Irish kind of feel to it, golf course kind of feel. But they all come, and it's true. And I only say that because we have a client that has that color too. So but it depends. There's different muted things, but go read into the psychology of it, because it does make a difference.
Yeah, and I mean, even for because Midnight Gossip and the NDMA are still me, so it's like my Midnight Gossip colors are a lot more vibrant and bold and a little edgier looking, whereas like the NDMA is kind of like the pastel-y versions, where it's a little softer, more approachable, right? So that color psychology, it's still those two things still really connect. It's not like I went crazy like blue, powerful, academic on this side, and then it's still keeping a balance. Even how I use two brands within my own personal businesses.
All right, there we go.
So fonts are a fun one. There's a couple examples of just showing you different ways. Probably should have put my word mark on this page too, but like this too, right? Like this word, like this is our font that we use for our heading for Midnight Gossip. So you want to choose a heading, a subheading, and a body, and that's just keeping it as the most simple you can. Generally, I think a lot of times too, you'd use your header as your word mark as well. So if you want to go into, again, Canva is a really good spot. Dafont is another one. They have a ton of, again, you can just go look and see what resonates. Are you elegant? Are you groovy? Do you have like a fun feel? You can see how all those fonts reflect your personal brand and your personal style. So yeah, those, the other nice thing you can do too, it's on the pro tips, but like you can also just choose like one font. You'd be like, I want this one font, but the header I'm going to do bold. And then the subheading, I'm just gonna put an underline, on it. And then for the body will just be plain. So you can still use the same text across everything with slightly different treatments if you want, just to keep things simple as an option. So readability, you want to make sure you can read it everywhere. I mean, even with our logo, our heading, this used to be a lot thinner, like the line was a lot thinner. And when we did the sticker, I was like, he sent me the mock-up of it and the lines were too thin. And I was like, I can see that that's going to be bad there. So we had to kind of go back and change our word mark to have thicker lines so it would look better on merchandise and stickers. So thinking about everywhere that you're going to use something, you don't want a crazy busy logo with a ton of colors or anything like that too. But anyway, that's logos, we'll get to that. So commercial rights use, you'll notice on DaFont and on Canva, there is like, if you're using fonts commercially, just double check that you have, that you can use them commercially. And then avoid stock fonts. So anywhere you can, like in Canva, does everybody use Canva? Does everybody know what I'm talking about when I'm talking Canva? No, you're just looking, I'm like,
It's like the photo editor.
Canva is just, I'll talk highly about this in ChatGPT in a few minutes, I'm sure. But so in Canva, you have the ability to like change like the width, like all the letter spacing. So you can change the spacing and stuff to just slightly alter it. Maybe even like if it's your, like, I'm just trying, like Taylor Swift is the only one I can think of, like how hers is like handwritten in like sideways, you can tilt things and make it look a little more custom. So whenever you can customize any stock, anything, please do, then you don't look like everybody else.
But I think I don't want to muddle what
Yeah.
we're getting across and assume anything, because we're talking a lot about word marks
Yes.
and maybe splash for promotional stuff.
Yeah.
But when it comes to building your website, so
Yes.
always make sure you know what channel you're talking about. We like Google Fonts because Google likes Google Fonts.
Yes.
So you want to stick with something standard and simple, and so that it's just sitting in the background.
Yes.
If you're changing like the letter spacing and line spacing and stuff of the font, does that change? Like, would you have the rights to it because you've adjusted it?
No, it's a font.
Yeah, sorry, that was kind of like getting into like word marks and
Yeah,
stuff
well,
because I got distracted by my own self because I have ADD. But yeah, this is more for like fonts that you're going to use on your website, or I mean, even if you are doing content, maybe you have like a quote, or you want to, you have a quote template and you want to type in your lyrics into like a quote template on Canva. Make sure that you have like, you're using the same text, like the same font text as your body text on all of that stuff, because that's more consistent. Like, don't go into Canva and use like their stock templates, like update the fonts to your fonts. And I think it's just in the Pro, which again, if you're gonna spend $16.99 on anything, please get the Pro. Canva. You will drive yourself insane on the free one, because there's so many, like I swear most of the stuff is, it used to be, the free one used to be good, but yeah, just get the Pro Canva, and yes,
it's still affordable.
It's still affordable. And then you can actually set up your brand in Canva. So there's like on the little sidebar, you can go in and you can actually put in all of those things. So you can easily update templates within Canva to match your brand. That's fonts and colors, all that stuff.
And just to let you know, so my partner's a designer who has kind of started taking a professional hiatus. Anyway, that's okay. We do a lot of these tutorials and stuff through our Get Ready with Entrepreneurs. So we have a YouTube channel and we do a bunch on Canva. She's so cute. Just follow our YouTube channel, and there's a bunch of stuff in there, and I still have to upload some more. And it's constantly changing. Like, I don't know how many times I go in and watch her do it and go, oh, you can do that. You can round corners now.
Oh, the rounding corners is a dream come true.
So many awesome things. So you do not need to blurt it overnight. But do get in and start to
You're really
use it.
nerdy on this.
And make sure whatever you do never just copy the template.
Yeah.
That's just the rule of thumb. And then also make sure you set up your own templates so that it's easy to go in and do it, that it's branded, it's unique. Do one for an Instagram reel header, like a graphic front, do you can even plan out your Insta grid if you want to know stuff like that. Like, there's so many things to do it.
Yeah.
Do it ahead of time, and it'll make your life so much easier. So
a lot of upfront work, but once you do it, once you build the templates, they're just repeatable and reusable, and like makes your life so much easier.
And it's
So this was just an example of a DeFont website. So I mean, it doesn't have a ton of them, but yeah, you can just search through like fancy, cartoon, groovy, old school, you know, like there's a lot of different options that you can just start clicking through, and even like going on here and being like, oh, my music is kind of Western, and just seeing if those fonts resonate. So again, it's just another tool for inspiration. So check that out. Or again, Canva has tons of fonts as well. All right, so graphic elements, you don't want to use a ton of them, but if you do use them, just keep them kind of minimal. Try to find like 1 or 2 icons or shapes, especially starting out. You don't want to overwhelm people with like, you know, I'm sure you've all seen those graphics with 1,000 things going on. Just keep it simple, but if you want to use elements, yeah, 1 or 2 of them. Make sure they're all consistent in style. I do have an example on the next page, so that'll probably make a little bit more sense. Line types use, you know, a certain, you know, if you want an elegant, if your music is elegant, you're probably going to find shapes or icons that have like thin lines or something, right? That have a softer, more elegant feel. If you have like a bold, edgy kind of brand and look, you're probably going to want to use things that are bolder, edgier looking. I hope that makes sense. And again, customize any stock elements when possible. Use your brand colors, all that kind of stuff. But
And we talk a lot about the elements. Do not forget about the space between
Yes.
these elements. And we didn't actually talk about that
No, we
really
didn't.
at all. And so space is good.
yes,
We need to breathe. We need to do not overcomplicate things. We like white space. When you are creating your graphics, please make sure there's padding around it. Again, for space, we don't want tension points either. Like, you know, when you kind of, you know, Picasso kind of stuff. No, don't do that. So, right?
Yeah.
So watch your tension points, leave space, less is more.
yes.
And go easy with anything that's scripted.
Yeah.
Just please don't overscript things.
It's, yeah, scripty
And that,
stuff is.
And we like space.
But yeah, that's the pro tip here. Keep it simple. Clean and simple graphics are the most timeless, right? So just if you like, sometimes you like work on something and walk away and come back, and you're like, that's too much, you know, dial it back a little bit. It's usually my creative process.
And I said no Picasso unless that's your brand.
Yes,
So I gotta
Exactly.
watch myself there.
exactly. So this was just kind of like graphic elements, right? So you'd only want to choose like a couple, right? If you're like, I'm going to go geometric, like, I mean, this would kind of almost suit Midnight Gossip branding. We don't really use, we use a square essentially is the only graphic element that we use, but like that would be kind of mine, right? Yeah, boho kind of feel. Maybe you would pick like everything has this little like janky little rainbow or the kind of crystals or something. A 90s feel Western. These are just, you know, examples of graphic elements. Does that make sense for everyone? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I want a boot. Sorry.
You want the boot?
Yeah, obviously, I want the boot.
I know, I was trying to think of like everyone who's coming. I was like, oh, these things might be inspirational. Okay, so photography and filters. So we all know what filters are. Like on your phone, when you're posting something on Instagram, right? You have the option to do that. So if you're just posting kind of like reels and things like that, or like, you know, selfie kind of photography, always try to use the same filter. It kind of gives everything the same look. Again, this is me on the extreme. When I film any like, a lot of time when I'm filming like Midnight Gossip stuff or indie NBA stuff, I'm wearing certain colors, right? If I'm filming like an indie everywhere, I'm gonna be wearing something like this so it reflects my brand colors and stuff too, and then using a filter. But yeah, there's lots of options. We do have a resource list at the end of a bunch of the suggestions that we're using. And then yeah, so for like mood and composition, this would be more for if you're working with a photographer. Just kind of find settings and things that are going to work and compositions that are going to work. And then photography, if you're working with a photographer, generally they don't like when you change the colors and stuff on their images. So if you are choosing a photographer, make sure that they're going to shoot in a way that aligns with your brand colors and filters and stuff like that. And then, yeah, use professional design software whenever possible. Again, that's even Canva, just use stuff like that you can kind of consistently use so everything looks cohesive. And yeah, just when working with photographers, plan to shoot multiple outfits. Like, I don't know, have you guys worked with photographers before? Yes, it's not cheap, right? Like a half day with a photographer is still a lot of money. So if you can plan to be like, okay, I want to release 2 singles this year. This single is kind of this vibe, this single is this vibe, bring 2 different outfits, maybe style your hair differently. If you have different accessories, maximize your time. Do not just shoot one thing with a photographer. just don't. That's gonna be a waste of your time and money. So just try to get as many different shoots or looks and styles as you can with the photographer.
And yeah, that's where Pinterest comes in too.
Yes.
I know anytime I've worked with a photographer, they go, can you make a board? So just start your board, because you know you're gonna have to use it, style of outfits.
Yeah.
Backgrounds.
And this next slide is just kind of some examples, right? So you can see kind of Billie Eilish in this era was this kind of glam, soft Hollywood, kind of similar treatments across different things, right? Then she's in her green hair era, all this kind of great, like you can see the difference between the different eras of how they're maximizing photo shoots and stuff like that. So I just want you guys to be really mindful of like these kind of things, right? If hopefully that makes more sense seeing it. Here's just a quick shot list of things to maybe think about, right? So you also want to make sure that you get square photos that look like we did a photo shoot last year, and a bunch of the photos, like, because there's two of us, like when we turned into a circle for a profile, we're like, okay, we had to like do some rejigging of the photo because it didn't fit both of our faces in the circle. So just being mindful of like the things that you need and where you're going to use them. A lot of times too, if it's like you standing on one side and there's a bunch of space over here, then you can use that as a poster. Then you can put all the text on this side without having to move a lot of stuff. So that's helpful. Canva has that magic AI thing that can extend photos. It's a little janky. So yeah, just be mindful of the different shots and things that you're gonna want to get from a photographer when you do that, and make sure it's on brand.
And Nikki has landscape and portrait, but I will say as a web designer, please think about your website when you're doing this too. Website, and we have a hard time getting these where they're very short and wide. So please think about your website and where that's going to be. And head hero images are.
So short and wide is good.
For
I know,
websites.
right? Thank goodness.
Yeah.
The Spotify profile.
Yeah.
is just
So that-
kind of- Sorry, Spotify profile pictures.
Yeah,
ones
so
are
that's
laid on.
circle, right?
Well, there's a circle one.
And then
there's
the header,
a
yeah.
really wide header one, too.
YouTube channels
Yeah.
use it too, are very
Yeah,
baked in. It's very
Yeah, and so I mean, you can Google it too. Like there's, like I have all of the sizes mapped out. So every time we release a song, I'm always like, okay, hey, Nikki, my bandmate, I'm like, here's all the sizes that you need to make everything for. Like, let's use this, whatever. And again, I am blessed with having a visual artist on my team, so he can extend photos and do those things. But if you do not have that, make sure you're just planning for, okay, what is the website header photo going to be? It needs to be like a wide shot, right? Otherwise, then you're just like zoomed in on your.
And it's just
Yes.
generally speaking, just think about wide and short, and it can be used across multiple.
Yeah.
It's just the one that's often missed.
Yeah, because everyone's focused on reels.
Yeah, and then
on the-
just because we're kind of more on the strategy management side, manage your files. So when you have all these photos, please either get a Dropbox or use Google Drive so that it's a shareable link and it's all organized. You have your branding folder where all your logos and your assets are gonna be. You have your visual, your photography. Please name your files too. OMG is all I'm gonna say, and name them so that you can search it if you can't find it.
Yes.
And other people can do it, and you go, oh, it's all these HEIC files from your phone or whatever. Please do that. That's my little
Very helpful, yes.
pro tip.
That's a good pro tip. All right, so we kind of talked a little bit about word marks and logos. So do you need a logo? No, not necessarily. That's a brand decision. Decide if you want one, if you don't, if you want a combination. Obviously for Midnight Gossip, we have our Square MG logo and our wordmark logo. For me, I wanted a logo because we have this like 80s synth wavy, new wave kind of vibe. And to me, that was just like very embodied it. I could picture it on like merch and stuff like that. So it works for me. For some people, it might, if you don't necessarily need a logo. A word mark though is probably more.
Yes, at least a word mark.
At least a word mark, so this is just like, you want to make sure that, again, our logo is only black and white. That's kind of our guidelines for it, but just making sure that it's going to look good on different colored backgrounds and that it's legible. Again, we had to go back in, like the MG was too thin when we started looking at it on a mock-up. So we had to go back in and adjust it. But yeah, originally it was a lot thinner. So, you can kind of finesse it over time as you kind of scale and build out products and stuff like that. So yeah, scalability, make sure that it can be scaled to different sizes and doesn't look super, right? If you have a really crazy busy logo or your name and then you scale it down really small and you can't read it anymore, like that's not going to be useful. So yeah, just make sure. And then yeah, make sure you have a consistent logo version across all your platforms if by chance you do change it. So again, we had to change our word mark and logo. I had to go across all my platforms where that logo was and go update it, right? So I didn't have an updated logo anywhere. And then yeah, just always test. So if you do have a website, you know, mock one up and throw it on your website and see what it looks like. Mock one up and like put it into a reel or a post and just see what it looks like different places. And yeah, make sure it fits within that little box screen, especially I think. And then yeah. And then yeah, same thing. A great logo is easily recognizable, scalable, and works in both color and black and white. I like using the Apple symbol, right? The Apple symbol has changed quite a bit over the years. I wish I had that example, but it changed over the years. And like now recently, it's just a white apple. Like it used to be, I think it was like rainbow color. It was like goldy sheen at one point, you know, like they've added
White out of it and all that stuff.
yeah, they've pizzazzed it over the years, but now it's just plain and simple,
I'll
right?
just bring up the TELUS organization has had a long campaign where you look at their ads, they all kind of look the same. They're white
Yeah.
field with the colors. There's always a different animal.
Yeah.
And they go through huge discussions and arguments about which animal is going to be used in the next one.
Which one's gonna be the cutest? Yeah. But again, that's just like very consistent thing. We expect to see a TELUS ad that is a white thing with the TELUS logo with the cute little animal doing whatever. You're like, I don't care what you're selling, but I'm gonna go look at that, you know.
It's cute.
Yeah, that's
That's
all you need.
Cat
Yeah.
videos.
Does anybody have any questions about word marks and logos? Is that making sense?
Or
The
would-
difference between them?
Do you recommend copywriting these things or?
Yes, eventually, but
Not at first.
I don't know.
It's not worth it.
It's a lot of work.
That's what I'm-
I think it's like if you scale to such a level that someone could take it, if it's not right, if you're just starting out, it's not. And it's a ton of work and cost. So if you barely have the time or money to afford Canva, you're not going to worry about trademarking, right? Like if you have money, go do it, fill your boots. But yeah,
Just try not make it similar to something else,
Yeah.
right? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, this is kind of back to your question. So this was a brand guideline that Laura did for one of her clients. So this is obviously a bigger mock-up, costs a little bit more than my $16.99 Canva version. But this is kind of what a full scale one is going to look like. This is my example here. So this was our first single. So our purples are kept the same between. So this is actually the same song. We just released the same song again, but we remixed it. So, you know, because it was a remix, we're like, oh, we can remix the colors. That was part of the idea behind it all, right? Makes sense. But yeah, we keep all the same fonts, the same, all this kind of stuff. But this was just very simple Canva brand board. In the checklist, I have a link that just goes direct to like style boards on Canva. So click on that, find a style board that works for you and start putting those elements together, because once you can see all the elements together, it makes a lot more sense. If they're all kind of separate, you know, that's why we build these style boards, and making sure that the colors work well together and everything looks nice together. Any questions on that? You're just doing this.
Does anyone have a brain?
It feels so nice. I'm just like touching.
I know, yeah.
What was the question, Laura? Do you have anybody done a brand guide for their stuff? Yeah, I would recommend at least
Yeah.
the one pager and put it
Yeah.
into Canva. And the biggest thing is just, it keeps it all organized.
Yeah.
It's time saving, but it's also if you are sharing and you are working with an event coordinator, right? And things like that, you can send them your brand guide. Because if they start throwing up your logo and they're putting it on a wrong background, or they don't have enough padding or stuff like that, then you have to go chasing them all the time. It's just so
Yeah.
much easier. You send your brand guide, and here's my logos, and you send it, you make sure you have it in black and white, portrait, square, landscape, you need some, your icon.
Yeah.
piece, you'll throw it up into a Google Drive, you just share that link with them.
Yeah.
And it's so much easier and it protects your brand and saves you a ton of time.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so where are you gonna use your visual brand? Well, everywhere, essentially. Your visual brand goes literally everywhere and you wanna make it as consistent as possible. Even for us, our visual brand goes into our live shows. Our tech rider has a list of colors that we prefer. So when we give our tech rider to the lighting guy, it's like, here's all the hex codes of the colors we want. Never use red, never use yellows, never use greens, right? We have brand guidelines within that keep us on brand. You know, your logo, you're gonna put it all on your streaming, on your merch, right? Your email signature, it goes literally everywhere. So yeah, just a lot to think about. But when you start scaling what you do and you have all this stuff, it just makes it easier. Like our live show is easy to put together, easy to put together because we have visuals that all match our branding and that, and you know, like a lot of times too, like we use a video screen for our visuals behind our live show. And for that too, it's like, they'll ask us, like we have to, you know, the screen size is different every time. So we have to like rejig that and make sure that everything fits and looks on brand still too. So yeah, social media, all that. So this is an example of like all the places that I use our Midnight Gossip branding. Obviously, like I said, our live show, right? We have our background stuff, all of our lighting, our website, you know, email signature, social media. Again, it all looks very on brand. Mickey makes custom posters for all of our shows. Whether or not the venue uses them, we do them for ourselves. So that's there. We have some of our merch here, and then obviously our album art. Is that making sense to kind of see it all fully together on that scale? All right, so your visual brand plus your brand story, getting back into that. They're powerful tools for connecting to your audience. Obviously, those examples, you can see that looking at that without like, I don't know how many of you guys have actually heard my music, but you can probably kind of tell what my music is based on that imagery, correct? And if you did listen to it, you kind of be like, oh yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And that's what you want to do. You want to connect that visual with actually what you're doing. So it makes sense for your audience. Again, it allows people to hear with their eyes before they ever hear your music. If they can look at this stuff and be like, oh, Nikki did this presentation, cool, I'm gonna go listen to Midnight Gossip now. You're like, oh, that is totally what it sounds like, cool. Yeah, and it represents you. So creating a brand story and visual story that represents you is crucial to make you stand out and your music. And yeah, consistency is key. So make sure you audit your brand across all your channels. Like if you have a new photo or something, or you want to start integrating a new element, just make sure you integrate that everywhere so it's consistent everywhere. And yeah, next we're going to get into putting this all together into your EPK. And then this is on page 3 of your visual brand checklist. So go through these as, you know, inspiration. Go use them, try out different stuff. And just I added on here writing tools. I cannot speak enough about ChatGPT for helping with writing. It is huge. I mean, even going in and asking ChatGPT, being like, hey, my vibe of music is kind of XYZ. What colors do you think would work well with that? It can spit out stuff to get you started, as opposed to you sitting there being like, I've never used Canva, I don't know how to do this, right? Using tools like that, and then Grammarly obviously is just helpful for if you're putting copy on your website, just making sure everything is spelled correctly. Very key to making yourself look professional. So those two tools are very helpful for writing tools. Oh yeah, and then just before, I don't know if anybody uses CapCut.
Yeah.
CapCut, by far my favorite for creating content. There's like a prompter in there too. If you don't know what to say, sometimes you can actually type in prompter and you can talk on the screen. It's a free tool. There is a paid version. I just use the free one, and it's CapCut.
It's a caption.
No, it's a
video edit.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
And they have it for like your computer too, so you can get it, do a draft on your phone, it shows up on the app on your computer. So it's just like so
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah, like my go-to things, I have the paid Canva, I have paid ChatGPT, I have Grammarly, and I have CapCut. Those are kind of my 4 key ones that I use. in my business.
Outside of the free one for CapCut is it leaves its logo on whatever content you
You
create.
can
Oh, you just delete it.
You could delete it.
You just click on it and you delete it.
Yeah.
You have to have the paid one.
No.
to delete it, don't you?
Nope.
Really?
It's
It's
just
just
that
a-
little clip at the end. You just
Yeah.
press it and you can just delete it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It also has like a really nice auto subtitle and auto lyric feature for people who
Yeah.
use that for their social media stuff.
Yeah, it's very helpful. All right, any questions on visual branding? Is that all making sense before we move on? Okay, so your PR toolkit. So again, we kind of talked about the difference between branding, marketing, and PR a little bit earlier. So your EPK is like a public public relations tool that you're going to use. So basically what we're talking about, like PR also includes crisis management, influencer partnerships, this stuff, but we're not worried about this stuff today. We're worried about media relationships and storytelling. That is what we are going to do with EPKs. My brain went away there for a second. So yeah, so PR adds value to your brand. Your brand is your story and identity, and marketing is selling your brand. They're all very interconnected, but kind of different things.
Which is why they would just call it communications.
Yes. You'd think, but
Well, they kind of do.
they kind of do. But then communications and then all that stuff, it's a lot. Yeah. Okay, so your EPK is a promotional tool that you use to promote your next single. An EPK is also used if you're promoting a tour or something. So depending on the purpose and what you're trying to achieve with your EPK, it's going to contain different things. The focus on this version of an EPK is on what you would need to include if you're promoting a song. So yeah, it's just a visual representation that you're going to send always going to send a link. You're going to build your EPK and you're going to send a link to radio hosts or for gigs or whatever and say, hey, here's my EPK. This is going to be a much better email than this. Hey, here's my EPK, blah, 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 check the link. And they're going to open it and go, oh, okay, I can kind of get what Midnight Gossip's vibe is, listen to the song and see if they want to play it. Makes you look really professional. And yeah, it's just a very professional package to deliver to anyone that you want to support you, essentially.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
Have you used ChatGPT? Have you uploaded your EPK and said, hey, can you write an email? Because I want to do, get on this media station or radio station.
I use ChatGPT literally for everything.
No, but have you done?
Upload a document to ChatGPT.
Well, I just cut
The
and
paid,
paste.
the paid version you can use.
Oh, well, with the paid, you
yeah.
can, okay, so if you get your paid and you can actually start to teach ChatGPT who you are, and you only have to upload it once, right? And so you start to do this is my style, this is my brand. So every time you do it, it's on brand for you. So it starts to.
I will say you can max out conversations because I've done that numerous times. You can max out conversations, they only go so far. And so then I get to the max, it's like error, and you're like, no, all of it's in there. So, but yeah.
It is amazing. And with the paid too, you can put in links from a website. And now before I was at early, but you can just go, hey, and it evaluated my website and said, based on this website, what would an elevator pitch be? Like for me, and it's like, oh my word.
Yeah.
And so that means for two things, it just gave me an elevator pitch, but that means my website is actually communicating who I am. So it almost did a bit of an audit.
Yeah.
It is a brilliant research assistant, is what I'm gonna say. It's not the final, but it is a great, basically I use it as an assistant.
Yeah, and it's like essentially ChatGPT, it's not logical. ChatGPT is not how we think. We think in logic. ChatGPT thinks in association. So you can't just tell it to do something and it's going to know. You have to tell it what it needs to know and be strategic in how you use the tool, if that makes sense. Yes.
Would you suggest having different EPKs saved? Like one that we send to music festivals, one that we send to the radio, or whatever?
So every time you do an EPK, it's going to be for a specific outcome.
So you're just making them all the time?
You're making them
you
all
don't
the
just
time.
have one saved in your
I mean, and you can have the website one, we can get to this too, but it depends on the information. Like if you are trying to do multiple, like if you're trying to promote a song and touring or something, then you just want to combine more information all together. But like if you're just right now, like if for your album that you're going to release, if you're going to build an EPK for that, then just focus on that. right? You can only do so many things at once. So you can't do 2 goals at once. So do the 1 goal first, and then whatever you take from that, then you're like, okay, we're gonna take this EPK and then I'm gonna add in XYZ for, you know, touring or whatever other things that you would need for that, would be my thing. You can't, you know, every marketing goal should be directed at one thing at a time.
It's kind of like your landing page, right?
Yeah.
Concept.
Yeah. So why you need an EPK, obviously, you're gonna send it to people to get interviews, media coverage, you know, streaming, playlists, fan engagement, gigs and festivals, industry recognition, online visibility, and collaboration. So a lot of these, you know, I'm sure a lot of you all probably want a lot of these things, so this is why you need it. For the 1 person who has made one. I guess 2 people have made a couple.
Yeah, I just made one to release albums, so like I did not use it for all of those purposes. I used it to get radio play. That's
Yeah.
it.
But that's the thing, you can use it for a lot of things because a lot of the stuff that you're gonna put into your EPK can be repurposed, which is great. We wanna do that. So here's a list of basically all the things that you're gonna want to put into your EPK. They're also listed here, so you don't need to write them all down if you don't want to. But they are also in a checklist in the drive. So you're either want to have some kind of a shareable link. A shareable link could either be a Dropbox, a Google Drive link, or if you want to do like Bandzoogle or a couple other hosting websites, or if you want to host it on your own personal artist website. A couple different things, just make sure it's always a link. I'm going to say this a lot of times just to make sure, never send anyone attachments. Literally, like ever, just send a link. Okay, and then you're going to do your bio. You're going to want a press release, 1 to 2 high-res photos, again, that reflect that song that you did with that photographer. That was really great. You got all these photos from. Your album artwork, a WAV and MP3 file, and then anything else, anything else that you can think of that's going to help, you know, like describe the essence of what the vibe of your song or album is. That can be stuff that we've included. So we, again, visual person on my team, we make visualizer videos for all of our songs. So that helps to describe the song. We do a teaser video. We'll do like countdowns and little things. We always make an album credit. So like the back of an album, you know, like a CD where it has the credits and stuff. We always just like make one of those to have. Can also repurpose that as content on social media, which is nice. If you do any music videos, like a radio ID, this was a cool one I heard. I sat in the Alberta Music webinar they did a couple months ago, and one of the radio hosts was like, "Oh yeah, throw in a radio ID." So be like, "Hey, this is Nikki from Midnight Gossip. Check out our new single. It's dropping on da 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 da. Radio ID, quick and something." Make sure that it's actually recorded well. Like, don't just record it into your phone. Like, they're not going to put that on the radio. It still needs to be nicely sounding, right?
So what do you mean by that? What constitutes nicely?
So I mean, for me, I have a studio at home, so like I have a microphone and I can actually
like through a condenser microphone.
Yeah, like I can actually record it into a DAW and export it that way. But yeah, don't just record something into your phone and think that they're going to play that. So just make sure it's professionally recorded to play on the radio. I like throwing in the Spotify canvas. Please make sure you guys have Spotify canvases when you're posting your songs on Spotify. An 8-second clip, again, that helps to describe the vibe of your song.
So what is that?
The Spotify canvas?
Yeah.
So it's when you go onto your phone and listen to Spotify, there's like a canvas that shows up in the background on a song, and it'll have, if you have it uploaded, there's like you can put a little short of a music video or you doing something or.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, it's an 8-second clip, so it's really short. So a lot of time.
But don't you have to pay?
No, it's just a feature within there. So like, I'm so glad I'm teaching all this stuff. But yeah, just like that kind of stuff, especially on Spotify, like it just helps to differentiate you. There's like, it adds this thing, right? This extra layer of visual to your song if you can, you know, embody that in an 8-second clip.
Do you need 8-second clip for each different song?
Yes. Every song should have its own Spotify canvas.
Jeez,
What if it's the same album?
Take that frown and turn it
Well,
upside
every song
down.
has its own, every song that pops up, right? It's not an album that plays.
Sort of just from artistically speaking, if you released an album, Would you use the same canvas for?
I would use a different one for every single one. Every single song is different, right?
They have to be all related.
Yeah, consistent, but
It's a puzzle. It's a fun puzzle.
branding, it's fun and confusing. Yes.
Do you, okay, teaser vid, do you guys, like, do you film, do you create your own videos?
Yes.
Using, I'm sure, professional equipment?
Yes. So again,
For the rest of us,
yeah,
how would we go about that?
there's so many, I can't think of them off the top of my head. There's a bunch of different like, I'll maybe make a note because I can maybe add it to the thing. Like visualizers or just like Google like visualizers and stuff like that, or even like you can still film a video of you just like, if it's like this moody song or something, like film you just like walking outside under streetlights or something, or you know, walking in a forest. Like it can just be a video of you doing something, like almost like a 8-second preview of like a music video, but like a fake music video that doesn't exist, right? Like be creative. It doesn't have to be highly. Yes. Oh yeah. Like the Spotify canvas is just like it's almost like an 8-second reel of embodying it.
A lot of them are very like gritty and vintage
Yeah.
looking anyways, so.
Yeah.
And if you
Is-
have use your phone.
Is Spotify a must?
Yeah.
Just kind of
Yes.
scares me, Spotify.
Well, if you're just, where did you distribute your album, Tim? Everywhere, right?
I listened to it on Spotify.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's on Spotify, you're right.
Oh my God. I was like, yes, please put your music on Spotify.
Okay, so then I don't know what the whole thing about the canvases, I'll have to.
I'll show you.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you have it handy, so you can. It's just it's an 8-second video. Anyway, the point is, if you have that and you're releasing your song, it's just like another thing you could add to your,
Well, you need
As a video.
Spotify for artists to be able to upload your canvas.
Yep.
So, yeah.
or put your music up there. Yeah, you can't. And then yeah. So another thing, when you are promoting a song, the more that's kind of going on in your artistic life, kind of the better. So if you do have tour dates and upcoming event shows, that kind of information is really important to put in there, because you know the radio host is going to be like, oh, this Midnight Gossip just dropped this new song and they've been on tour and this, right? It's just like, if there's more, like the radio is still news, right? So as long as you have news going on about you, then it's yeah, definitely good to add any kind of interesting things that are going on in your life as an artist.
Where does all this?
We're getting there. Yeah.
Okay.
And then yeah, just make sure on your bio and your press releases, make sure that your website, your logo, all your contact information, like your social links, are all somewhere on it, on every document. You want to make it as easy as humanly possible. Like maybe someone only opens up your bio and you have all the links and stuff there, and they're just a PDF with like, oh, your Instagram, I can go click on your Instagram real easy. You want to make it as easy as humanly possible. Again, the communications for people to find you, especially when you're asking radio hosts for interviews, when you're asking of something from someone, make it as easy as humanly possible for them to access any information they need about you to make that decision easier.
And Canva, you can create, add a link.
Yes.
On Canva to a PDF, and it will get embedded and it is clickable.
Yes.
So if you haven't had a
I
chance
feel
to-
like we need a course just on that stuff.
Oh, there's.
Oh yeah, there's
so many.
25 subtasks.
yeah.
Oh my God, this is.
So,
getting bad.
This is my example of how I got what I got. So I don't have it on, like I mean, realistically, we could just upload this to our website, but basically what I use is a Dropbox link. And this is just a simple way to do it. Obviously, like this is my bandmate making things look very fancy and professional looking. So don't worry about that. But yeah, I have my bio, my press release, you know, the album cover, the back of the album credits, a couple press photos, and then the WAV and MP3, and then we include our visualizer music video in there as well. And then just as a side note, literally none of this matters if you have a shitty song. Like point blank, if you did not spend time writing it, thank God we're all here doing right on. If you do not have a good song, if it is not mixed, if it is not mastered, if it's not good, none of this matters. Like all of this you still have to have a really good song. No amount of professionalism will make a bad song good, period. So that.
You're gonna give them a link to your Dropbox, and then they're gonna be able to click on each one.
Yeah, so then all of this stuff will be there. This is just how I do it. I know there's lots of different ways. You will find that anybody in the music industry there's multitudes of different ways. This is something that I've seen success with twice. So this is how I do it. I find it simple as opposed to, I mean, we just talked about website, annoying, it's learning how to build a website is annoying. It is an option, but I just have each of these separate things in a Dropbox file. Here's the link, simple, yes.
Sorry, I'm just wondering what the difference between an MP3 and a WAV file actually is.
They're just different, it's just different quality, yeah, essentially. So depending on, I just like having both for both options. Usually like the WAV file is gonna have the highest quality sound,
It's gonna be 10 times the size
Yeah.
at least.
but not, it's, yeah, but it's like a 3 minute long
compression
song, it's
algorithm that
not.
Just shrinks everything down, so
Yeah.
not quite the same fidelity, but very often it's fine for one ear on an iPod. And it takes a lot, it can transfer in a second instead of a minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can embed metadata in an
Yes.
MP3 as well, and you can't on a WAV file.
Yeah, and that's something very important. I didn't want to overload you with a ton of stuff, but metadata is so important on the back end of your files to make sure all of your information about who the song is, who wrote it. This is especially important for sync licensing. If you ever want to go into sync licensing, the sync person needs to be able to go look in that WAV file and know that whoever the rights owners are, so they can, you know, put your song into the next big motion picture.
Sorry, are you gonna talk about press releases?
I had parts of that, but that's like an entire other presentation talking about bio writing and press release.
So did you write?
Yes, I write all of I do all the copy and then he does all the visual aspects.
And how is the press release different from bio?
So your bio is kind of more an introduction about you and who you are. The press release is like a feature story, like getting people excited about why they should care about the music. It's like more of like a news story. I find I've written press releases for both. Like, so for example, like this is my like long bio up here, and there's like a short version of it here. And then in here is just kind of talking more about the song, the background, trying to make it newsworthy that someone's gonna want to pay attention to it. And that's kind of more to help get like features and stuff in magazines. I will say too, like anytime you try to go get media coverage, the easier, like if you write in like a feature story style like this, essentially all they're gonna do is look at it, and like anything that's out there is because I wrote it. Like it's someone literally copying and pasting exactly what I wrote in those features. So you wanna write them in a way that they're going to just make it like, they're gonna be like, cool, this is just easy to copy and paste, basically verbatim. So, yeah. Any other questions on this page specifically? Nancy,
We
yes.
have, it's almost 1 o'clock, where do you?
Okay.
Oh,
Where,
shoot. Okay.
no, I'm just asking,
that's-
where are we at?
I can go, the next couple stuff is pretty much done, so just, yeah. So this was a simple version. This is a Word PDF version you could do. Doesn't have to be fancy like mine, very pared down version. And then this is a website version, obviously a lot more to it. I think this is actually the end of the presentation, so. So outcomes of a good EPK. This is everything that mostly everything that I got from the EPK that I did. So for me, it was a proven way of doing it. To me, it was a very simple way of doing it. But yeah, this is the end of the presentation anyway. So what's next? After you have your EPK, what do you do with it? You need to pitch it. Radio shows, campus radio, you have to do all the pitching that is involved in that. Again, something that would be probably an entire other presentation on. You want to build your online presence, making sure that's cohesive everywhere. Networking, attending shows, conferences, virtual and in-person events, show up in your community. Huge, Nancy, I know you can agree that's a very important one. Royalties, making sure that your music is signed up for all of your royalties that you need. Again, that's a whole other very long presentation.
Right on is for bringing in SOCAN to do a presentation.
Okay, okay, but then here's all the other ones that you do need as well. Live shows, booking live shows, doing all that stuff. Grants and funding, if you guys need to fund your music, you need to be working on your next release, right? It doesn't stop with this one release. It's a lot of work to just do one, but then you have to start thinking about your next release. If you want to start building a team, I highly recommend any of you, if you are a business or signed up, registered as a business, make sure you have an accountant and a lawyer before anything. Those are going to be your best friends for the foreseeable future. And then learning. So music industry specific programs, again, CMI, I know women, there's like just so many programs out there. Business programs, conferences, working with mentors and coaches, and collaborating with other artists. All right, so key takeaways from today's presentation, we were hopefully now at 1 o'clock, so we're good. So your brand is the foundation, marketing amplifies your greatness. So if you do not have a brand, it's very hard to amplify nothing, right? So key takeaways, this is a business, you are an entrepreneur. As hard as that pill is to swallow it. The marketing 7 steps, again, I highly suggest you guys go to Acorn Marketing and look at Laura's free resources. They are amazing. Know your brand story, create a visual brand and have it accessible. Building your brand takes time. It took me a year to build what I have for Midnight Gossip. This didn't happen like, oh, I sat down and was like, I'm gonna do this, okay, done. That didn't happen. This is a very long process.
But you also dedicated a lot of hours to it too.
Yes,
so
I do
it's-
this full time, so. Yes, I do have time to do it, but full time, it took me like the last year. So your brand will grow as you grow as an artist, so don't think you have to know everything now. Don't try to replicate what I'm doing. Again, I'm doing this full time. If you can't do it full time, this isn't replicatable in the same time frame. Continue to work on yourself and your music. And this is just the start. So like we just said, all of that other stuff, you have to do all this stuff next. Writing the song, releasing the song, building an EPK is just the foundational steps. And all of this is important because if you have all of this stuff prepared, you can be ready for big opportunities. What if my mentor was sitting next to that producer and was like, I am in whatever this, and you're ready to hand over this. If somebody asks you to do a gig and you're like, oh, I need a bio, and you're like freaking out because you don't have a bio. Maybe you miss an opportunity because you don't have that, right? Send me a headshot. I don't have a headshot, right? Get all this stuff together so you can be prepared to take on those big opportunities because you never know where they come from. Yeah. And then lastly, there is a feedback form as well in the QR code. And if you entered, I hope you just all want to fill it out because your feedback is highly important, but I will be giving away a free brand audit worth $179 with me for filling it out. And if you want to take photos or if you want to post about your experience today with this workshop, please tag me at the Indie MBA, and that would be awesome. And you would get a double entry to win, and I'll let you guys know by the end of the week who the winner is.
I'm entering.
Yay.
Good.
Thank you, Nikki.